I do not like potatoes, man. Potato is like the Estonian food. Every Estonian eats potatoes. Yeah, Estonians Estonians were poor people, and we had nothing, and potato grew here.
Yeah.
So at some point, Estonians started growing a shit ton of potatoes. Yeah. And I hate potatoes. Yeah, I think you should cut the potato talk out.
No, but I liked it. Thank you for the potato insights.
No, dude, our Mr. Bossman at Tarbariitus is gonna hate it.
Really? Is he a potato lover?
No, he's gonna hate it because it's out of topic, and we were supposed to talk about black metal and bands. And
it's fine.
I mean,
I can, yeah.
Introduce Perditus and YouTube people. Welcome to Tarbariitus podcast thing. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, Matt. My name is Jonas. I'm a random Austrian person who started this solo project like fucking 6 years ago, I think. I don't even know the timing quite. We put it on stage last year with a bunch of friends. I've spent a whole year preparing the various stage outfits and whatever. I put a lot of thought in it. I think after meeting one of you guys last year at Kilkim Cebu, we started talking about this whole thing, and he invited me to Tarbariitus, and we're all really looking forward to it and meeting all you guys. And yeah, hopefully gonna fucking scare some people, I think, on stage. I've got no idea, like. What's gonna happen?
It's only one way to find out.
Right. First thing I want to talk about, because that was a pretty funny thing. Since we won't bring any instruments, I had a slight problem with my banjo, because I've incorporated my banjo into my especially my recent stuff a lot through intros and just songs themselves that revolve around just being banjo and drums. So I was really struggling with, or I was like thinking about how am I gonna like get the banjo across, because I'm not sure if I can like find someone with a banjo there. I was looking into some like Craigslist things, or like whatever you got in Estonia, and I didn't really. I was like, am I just like gonna buy a used banjo for like $50 and then just like throw it away after? I really wasn't sure. I started talking to some people, and just like I started writing to someone, and I think it was even Patrick who mentioned you. He was like, yeah, I think he's got a banjo, or someone with a banjo. And you were like, yeah, okay, yeah, like yeah, I guess that's fine, yeah, all right. And then we said that's okay, that's cool. And like I think 3 days after you asked me if I was, or you were like, hey man, you're part of a band, I didn't even know. I was just I really just wanna like I just wanna know your side of that story, because I think it's extremely funny that you offered me a banjo without even knowing that I'm part of a band. Like what were you thinking I am? What were you thinking I'm gonna do with that fucking banjo for the festival?
The story is actually pretty simple. Patrick asked us in the organization chat that, hey, one of the bands needs a banjo. Does anybody have a banjo or knows anybody? And I was like, I know exactly the guy that you need. Because we have this, used to be a crust punk, folk punk dude in Tartu that used banjo a lot. Like most of his projects used banjo in one way or another. So I just texted him, asked if it would be okay to borrow a banjo, and well, now you have a banjo for your life.
Okay, all right. I was just like thinking, because you made it sound like you had no idea I was gonna use it on stage. You made it sound like I was just like some random tourist who's gonna come to the festival and needs a banjo for 3 days and then gonna give it back to you.
No, not okay. Really. I saw the Facebook post also. I think you did the Facebook post. You need the banjo, and Patrick maybe tagged. I don't know. Anyways, I got to know that that you need a banjo through Patrick, right. And then I did it.
All right, that's great.
Dealt with it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks again for hooking me up with that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's gotta be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. We just a heads up for everybody watching. We did this whole podcast like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and was entirely cursed by audio problems. So we're now doing it again. So if we start talking about like stuff if we're gonna like act like we already talked about stuff, that's why, because we did. We've had a lot of these talks already.
Yeah,
but it's fine.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track to what you actually said with the bones.
Yeah,
you want to talk about that?
To, well, you want to talk about buying bones, or actually not buying them.
Right. I think
So,
I wrote this down again because I thought it was really interesting the last time we talked about it. I think this was like one of the last points. But we definitely had like agreed on that because bones are really interesting for like there's these certain things you will expect from a black metal band. It's spikes and it's leather bands and it's whatever. And a lot of the times it's bones. And I think, yeah, of course that makes sense as on a symbolism standpoint. It's like death and it's decay and it's actually showing that stuff on stage. But it just loses all meaning when you either have not actually had to do anything with that stuff. So first of all, when it's just plastic and just like for show entirely, I think there's a lot of honesty and authenticity lost in that because it's just like plastic that's just here for show. I don't know. It's weird, and I can get behind. We got like a bunch of really cool artists that carve stuff into bone that they actually found in the forest. And I think that's great. Like, buy that stuff. Definitely support those guys. But in general, buying bones from people just so you can use them on stage will always be like a bit weird. What I love is just by now being that guy that everybody knows. Hey, I found this deer skull. Jonas is definitely gonna love it. And by now I got like 6 skulls in my apartment, and I think it's great because everybody just keeps gifting them to me because they don't know what to do with it. But I love that stuff. I love having it around, and it's never crossed my mind to have that stuff on stage because that's not mine. Like, I didn't find that. It's nothing I had anything to do with. Like, they gifted me that stuff, and I think it's great to have, and I love it as decoration. I love having it in my apartment, but I wouldn't use it on stage because that's not me. That's not a thing I did. I didn't kill that deer, and I didn't find that skull in the forest when I was wandering. So I don't know. It just always felt weird. Yeah.
I don't even know what to say because I'm pretty sure last time I had some thoughts about it, but
yeah, right.
But in the bigger sense, I do agree with you, especially on the plastic bones part, because that's just. I don't want to use the word cringe, but it's kind of cringe.
It's about how you present it as well. Like, definitely don't, and that's the whole. I mean, that's also a thing. Universal, don't try too hard, and still like take it seriously. Definitely as an art form and as a thing that can be used to express yourself. But it's not that deep. Yeah, it's like it's fine. And
yeah, and whatever you do with it, I can use the word proper again. The proper way.
Yeah.
The proper way to do whatever the fuck you're doing in the black metal field is to do what's necessary for the art to flourish. Because if you use corpse paint just because I'm doing black metal, I have to use corpse paint, it's not gonna look good. It's probably gonna look like even worse than some of the bands that look pretty fucking bad on stage. If you use, whatever it is, spikes, bullet belts, like if you use spikes and bullet belts at the same time, for me, even that looks odd and weird,
really,
and it doesn't feel right because usually if you have all those spikes and nails and gauntlets and shit, it has a really medieval vibe.
Okay, yeah.
And bullet belts, it's like modern war.
Right.
So how do those go together?
I feel it still has the same impact of being weapons of war and weapons of destruction. You know, it's still the same general concept, but definitely from very different periods. And I think, yeah, I get that a lot. It is kind of jarring.
Just most of the time when I see it, it's just, you know, the stereotypical black metal artifacts just thrown into a lump, like dumped together, and here's your black metal stage outfit.
Yeah,
no,
and
it just doesn't work for me.
You will notice if that band actually wanted to have corpse paint or if it just has corpse paint because it's a black metal band. You will notice again. And I mean, in general, corpse paint is a huge thing because it will look fucking ridiculous and it will look really bad if you don't like have any idea what you're doing. It is a very weird. I want to call it art form, but it sounds kind of pretentious. But it's definitely a thing you can get skilled at. It's makeup in general. Like you can be good at makeup and you can be bad at makeup. There's no point in making this sound any different. Like, and if you don't care about where your lines go, like it can. Even the guys from, like, as we talked, Panzerfaust, or even the guys with the most fucked up makeup that pretty much just like put white on and then some black and then they just smear it around with their fingers. That can work. That will work definitely if the band sounds like that and if that band sounds raw and fucking sounds that aggressive and that they don't care about that stuff. That's gonna look good. But if you're gonna like half-ass it, you're always and like not think about what you're actually doing because you saw how Mayhem looked and we wanna do the cool Mayhem makeup. It's like, I'm sorry, it will always look weird. Definitely, there's a lot of attention you have to pay to corpse paint.
It is really good that you brought up Panzerfaust again because they use like some mixture of mud or something that they put on their faces. It works really fucking well with their image, the overall image, their thematics, their sound, everything. Right. Then you have bands like, you know, Marduk. They use corpse paint, but they don't do just some random, you know, whatever corpse paint that the average black metal band does. They have a specific way of doing it, and it goes with their music and their thematics. And then you have some black metal bands that use corpse paint just because they're black metal, and you can straight up see it from the first moment. It just doesn't fit.
Definitely. There was it Tudor? What was that band? I saw them at Kilkim Shabu even. It wasn't Tudor. I don't remember. There was one band playing that had a guy on stage that looked like Hellraiser, like pretty much just it was amazing. So like the with the paint mask, and it just made a lot of sense with the corpse paint. You're
talking about Urgehall.
It was Urgehall, yeah, thank you. It was Urgehall, definitely. That was also great because you don't see that a lot. You don't see that amount of care in it. Like that was like he had this vision and he wanted to look like that and he pulled through. And the thing is, he still made sense with the rest of the band, and that's also a very important part. Is where a lot of the time, what happens when people don't really care about corpse paint is that they will look like 5 people from 5 different bands, because they don't have any cohesion. They don't have what I tried to do a lot. What we figured out is that just like having certain things be part of everyone's corpse paint in the band will always make it be a lot more cohesive. So if one guy decides he's not gonna paint his lips black as a general thing, then nobody's gonna paint their lips black. And at that point, you got something in common. If one guy says I'm gonna have like 2 lines up here, then everybody does that, and at that point you look like in one band. It's not that hard. It's just things you have to think about actively and actually care about, because it is gonna make or break your show. And I've seen bands that were like actually really good, but they just looked fucking horrible, had horrible lighting, and it just stings. It's always like, man, I wish you would have cared a bit more.
Definitely. And if you use corpse paint, do not use front lighting. Yeah, it ruins everything.
It's so important. It is so important to have good lighting. I'm gonna turn on a light. That looks horrible. Give me a second. I'm gonna turn on
every time I see a band using corpse paint, and they have said nothing to the lighting guy. If you have all the light coming from the front into your face, it doesn't look scary anymore.
I think it's a lot about contours. It's a lot about shadows, or like the contrast of it, and especially silhouettes. Just like it's the whole horror concept of your mind making up what it doesn't see in the dark, and what you will make up will be a lot cooler and scarier than what you could actually see on stage. So yeah, having light directly shine in your face and seeing you're showing your whole corpse paint with every line, with every perfect line, is not gonna look as good as just being backlit really good. And it's definitely a thing that you will have to go out and ask the sound or the lighting guys to do, because they wanna put on a good show. And for every other genre and metal, that makes a lot of sense, just being good, just having good lighting from the front. But in black metal, that's just never worked, and I'm always behind that. Yeah, definitely. Just a lot of backlights, not a lot of front lights, and you look fine. Definitely sells it a lot.
So, but if we now continue on the nature topic, then
right.
Well.
So this time I came prepared. Stealing nature. No, what is there? Stealing from nature on your own accord. So let's go back to Perditus, because this is a thing that just made a lot of sense for the project. As Perditus has been following me ever since I started hiking, pretty much. That was at the same time I started going on solo hikes, was pretty much the same time I started Perditus, and it's just inspiring. There's this at one point a few years ago, it's a really cool small documentary from Vice, when they interviewed Sester Leviathan, and you've probably seen it. A lot of people have seen it. It's on YouTube. It's great, one man metal. And Striborg was standing in the woods and talking about how all of this connects to his music, and the vocals being the wind, and the forest, the trees being the drums. It was just really interesting to hear that guy talk about it. Of course, he's an interesting guy in general, and I try to not look into it that deep as he does. But in general, I think there's some correlation between being in the woods and this kind of music. At least for me, a very personal thing. And so I've been hiking on my own for a long time, and I've had I've disappointed partners, and I've disappointed friends, because they always want to go with me. They're always gonna want to go on hikes with me, but I'm always I just don't want to go on a hike with you. Not because I don't like you and I don't enjoy your time, but being in the woods is a thing I do for myself, and for myself only, and to be with myself and to reflect on things, and to be there in general, fully split from modern problems and the modern world and everything. And what ended up happening a lot is I still went back to being a modern human being sometimes, which is really scary to think about. What happened, I noticed this 1 year after I started hiking, is that at some point I was only hiking. I started bringing my camera. Just to make some good pictures and just have it for album stuff and whatever. So that's how it started. What ended up happening is that I always brought my camera at some point, and that I actually went on hikes just to get more pictures for my portfolio. I was working on my portfolio. That's why I went on hikes at some point. And I was this is not why I wanted to go into the woods at first. It was not to have a good portfolio to at some point make money with photography or anything like that. That was not my intent. I stopped bringing my camera after that, and this is a really weird thing that keeps happening. You keep wanna monetize and profit of the things you enjoy, and I think actually, but really thinking about it, ever since then I've been really cautious about that stuff, and I don't think it has happened again really with me going on. I think it did kinda, because I keep making videos of myself going hiking and playing music somewhere to post it on Instagram. But that's also got different motivations than just, I just want to share stuff, and I want to look back on it in a year and I want to like remind myself that I actually did things, because my brain sometimes just goes like, you achieved absolutely fucking nothing this year, and it's good to just be able to look back and see that I went places actually and that I did things. So the only thing I really still do is, as these things have separately been going on, me creating my solo project and getting inspired from nature, and me continuing to go on hikes. At some point, it just with the point where I was like, I'm gonna put Perditus on stage, I had to think about what I'm actually gonna look on stage, and what I'm gonna get my bandmates to wear, and what vision I have for that stuff. So it just kind of made a lot of sense to incorporate nature in some way. And at that point, I think I actually you get inspired by a lot of things, but I said this the last time as well, but I think my main thing, I saw something from the Blair Witch Project game, actually. There was this one guy, Carver, that looks actually suspiciously like we do on stage now, because he just looked like he just crawled out of the woods, and I loved that shit. Like he had like sticks sticking out of him, very dirty, ragged clothing that's been rotting on his skin. And I think I was just like, I saw that and I was like, man, why the fuck does nobody do that? And like, this would work so good on stage. And this continued with a year of me trying to figure out what I'm actually gonna do. It ended up with me buying a lot of clothes secondhand, like 5 shirts, 5 pants, and 5 belts, just from secondhand places, just so they're worn already, because that also is just like a whole upcycling thing. It made a lot of sense for me, as I'm passionate about that stuff. And I ended up painting on them and then burying them in 3 or 4 different places. At the end, it was like 4 different places next to riverbeds, letting them rot and putting them up to dry again afterwards. And what I also started doing, and that's the point I wanted to actually get to, is stealing from nature on your own accord. These are things I just like started doing. It's like there's nothing behind it. There's just, I find sticks and I like them, and I bunch them up with this yarn, and that's all that happens. But what actually happens is that I can put this shit on and it will look fucking great, and I can put this shit on a mic stand and it will look great. And then there was this whole moment of me inviting a good friend of mine, Noxia, shout out, on stage for one song that's actually on the new record with I Ruin. And I was like, how am I gonna like split her? How am I gonna make her look like the band without actually making clothes for her? And then there was this whole idea of just making this crown of sticks, and it looks, it's great. Like I put this on her and it just made sense. I love this shit, and it just like escalated from there. At this point, I got these stick effigies that don't make any sense. I'm gonna actually, I'm not gonna bring them to Tarbariitus, but I'm gonna spend like the day before hiking through your local woods, and gonna recreate some of those just so I can have them on stage again with local sticks. And I think that's also really good. So that's at least my plan. Other than that, this is how the clothes turned out. Pretty much what you expect. It's like rotting, and it's. I got this pants. These pants are really cool. Because I don't know if it was the water or some chemical, I'm really not sure, but some chemical just like started disintegrating, like bleaching it, because those were green pants at first, and they turned yellow for some reason. Something bleached it in the ground. I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah, it's. I don't remember how it's called in English, but it's a really common type of rock in Estonia. Also,
really? Yeah. I never looked it up.
Yeah, on the shores.
I see. Okay, maybe some rocks.
I think it's called lubi in Estonia.
Yeah.
And it has it's not acidic, but the opposite.
Some bleaching qualities.
Well, yeah, it does bleach your things. In the continent of America, Indians used to bleach their mohawks also with
those rocks,
like natural water and natural stone.
That's really interesting. I never looked it up. I was always like really fascinated by it, but I never really made the attempt to actually find out what it was. I just think it was really interesting. That was.
I mean,
yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, right. Just doing stuff and like not thinking about it. And break it down. Breaking it down is one of those things where I let go entirely, because none of this made sense. Like, it does not make sense to bury cloves in the ground for like 6 months so they can rot, because like, what's the practical benefit to that? It looks cool, but that's everything. Like, there's no practical benefit to it stinking everywhere I bring it, and like smelling like fucking dirt to everywhere I go. But it just makes sense in that context, and I've gotten like really good feedback on that stuff, because I think it's also it's one of those things that I've never seen live. I've never really seen in a band. You see, like the best I can compare it to is some black metal bands that like got war themes a lot. I think 1914 has some very torn clothes at least. So that's the most close thing I can really think about. But like, as far as looking like we just crawled out of the woods goes, I've never seen that happen. I think it's really neat. I think it's really cool. I put a lot of work into it, and I'm really proud of that stuff. I think it just reflects myself a lot as well. And as far as a solo project goes, that's pretty much all you want. It's just like making it look like yourself. And I'm really happy that none of my bandmates really put up a big fight, because they've known me for like it's the same thing. We've played in like 17 other bands, but it's like ever since we were young. So they know me by now. They know that it's gonna be fine, and they just trusted me with that stuff, and now they put on rotting clothes.
So
one thing I still want to say, because
no. Okay. Finish.
There was the I can't think of his name right now. The guitarist from Avokruno, I talked to him about this stuff as well, and he was so fascinated by that. He was so interested in that stuff, and we talked about it really nice. He came up with the idea, and I still have yet to try, but I think it's a great idea, and I still have to do it. Is burying that stuff with a potato in it, because potatoes are notorious for just like growing wherever they want, and I think the roots of the potato going through those clothes would look really cool. I think that's a thing I'm gonna have to try in the future as well. But for now I got enough clothes. Maybe if I'm gonna change like a band member and he needs a bigger size of clothing, maybe then. But yeah, that's also really interesting. Still gonna have to try that.
You could just leave a piece of clothing to me, and usually the potatoes in my home, they never get used.
I see. Yeah. They just put it in your drawer.
They just grow until there's none of the potato left, and then I have to throw them away.
Where's the fucking soil?
Would you like to talk more about those? Like besides stealing from the nature and everything we have mentioned already, right. What are some other of your beliefs that are important in the context of the band?
So I think as I was talking about my tattoos earlier and Levian Satanism and whatever it means, we definitely I'm not special in this, but a lot of us have a past of dabbling with those kinds of things, because they just like go hand in hand with black metal. What ended up happening for me is what happens for a lot of people. They just get sick of it, because they're like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like at some point you just like, it's a lot of hypocritical shit. And what I really started thinking about is science in general. I don't have a problem with science, and then I stumbled across naturalism. Naturalism as the just core belief that everything that happens on this earth is science, is in somewhat shape or form could be proven scientifically or could be explained scientifically. There is no such thing as something above us or something celestial that controls the flow of the universe, pretty much. So there's nothing above us. There's everything we could understand by science at some point. We probably won't, but we could definitely, with the right amount of time, and if we survive as a species for that long, we could at some point explain everything. And I think it's a fascinating belief, because I don't live by it entirely, but I think in general, yes, I believe that a lot of things can be explained by science, and I mean that's not a wild take. We've seen this happen our entire existence. Like we had no idea. Like, I mean, look at a fucking thunderstorm a few hundred or 1,000 years back, and you're gonna think that's the wrath of some deity. Of course, you're gonna do that because you have no idea, or rainbows or things like that. But we figured that stuff out by now. We figured out why that happens, and I think there's still a lot of stuff we could explain to ourselves. And what I do also believe in, though, and that's the reason why I don't really call myself a full-blown naturalist, and that's what I go by, is that there are certain things we're kind of not meant to understand, or like at least me and my kind of point in time where I live, and I think that's fine as well. There are I don't want to get too esoteric about this whole stuff, but there are certain things you feel when you walk into certain rooms, which you will not be able to explain yourself. Like talking more crudely about ghosts, like ghost stories and things like that. But there's like rooms you walk into that has a certain, I don't want to say the word energy because I think that word's been butchered a lot, but in general, it's just this certain energy in that room where you can't really put your finger on it. Why this bothers you? What happened in this room? And you just start to think about it. And I think that's fine as well. There's certain things that will not be explained in my lifetime, and that's fine. And I don't even want them to be explained. I think it's fine to not understand everything. Where was I going with this? I was going to naturalism in general. Yeah, I mean, my whole thought process of trying to figure out what I actually believe in through the past few years definitely reflects on the music as well, since I incorporate that stuff into lyrics, of course. There was a point where I was like full blown into naturalism, definitely. This was like at the World Shall Know Pain timing. When I put out that record, there was a lot of like just being against every celestial being and every form of religion or cult or sect that believed in anything supernatural, and just being full-blown nature and just like science. That's all we have. I've calmed down a bit. I've grown to love some esoteric things as well again. I think it's just a process of trying to figure out the world around you, and that's definitely a thing that's been translating to Perditus a lot. By now, it's a lot about, me trying to figure out the night sky, I think. So that's a very common theme on the recent record, is just my resentment towards the moon.
I wanted to come back to the fact that you just released 2 albums back to back last month. So, and there's this one album is titled Hailing the Coward Moon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's the deal with Coward Moon?
Right. I think I've told this story to like one person, because it's always like but I think the point still stands. I get inspired a lot by music outside of black metal, and a lot of people in the scene do that, because getting inspired by the same music you create will lead to you sounding like someone else. But getting inspired by genres entirely outside will always lead to more interesting stuff. And I don't listen to black metal on a day-to-day basis. What I did do for the last couple of years is listen to a lot of singer-songwriter, like really honest and embarrassing stuff if you just like strip it from all context, where it's just like very direct people talking without metaphors or anything about their love life, their failed ones, or people dying in their area. And it's like, I think it's fascinating because they don't talk around it. One of those people was Mount Erie, and Mount Erie is one of those, I've been in like his 0.001% of top listeners for the last 2 years, I think, in Spotify and the rewinds. I'm always like so shocked, but I listen to that guy a lot, and that everything happened because first song I heard from him was Moon I Already Know, and that song is pretty much just about him cowering under the moon and being frustrated at the fact that he's a fucking coward, pretty much. He calls him a coward because he's always looking at him, always staring at him, but never really doing anything, never really helping, never really giving him any advice or anything. And I think it's so fascinating to have this thing hovering above you the entire night, and just it will it watches him, and I think that concept that really struck a chord with me, and I was like, that's interesting. I think he also brought up the whole point with him hiding behind clouds, which is a thing that I think that's the point where it really clicked, that seeing the moon as this deity that watches you and is too cowardly to actually talk to you and actually help you, and hides behind the clouds the half of the night is something that I found really interesting, and that really started the whole direction of both of those records. Is that, and also me just in general picking up the hobby of stargazing and trying to like map my own star map and things like that, just because it's very therapeutic and a good thing to do, and just like in general, helps me. It's therapeutic. Those things happening at the same time, being inspired by that song and me looking at the stars a lot, definitely made me confront them a lot more. And there's parts of the album where I sing about exactly that, where I don't even know what I expect from it. Like I'll ask it questions and it will not respond, and I'm gonna be pissed about that. I think it was just a really cool concept to have. This whole resentment towards the night sky, and my actual it comes from me actually being like mad about this stuff, and me actually like trying to figure out how the fuck I'm gonna continue living after things happening in my life, and not getting any answers from that fucking coward. It just it's a whole thing, and I don't even know what to say about it anymore.
So that's why that record sounds more angry, more raw, more like, I don't want to say more black metal.
It is.
But like
on paper, definitely.
On paper.
Yeah, right.
But now the other record,
right?
That's the more, let's say, interesting one, because there you're using some really untraditional,
it's a lot more
experimental instruments.
Right.
Do you want to share anything about the second record, or actually both of them at the same time? Because I mean, they're like two separate albums, but they're meant to be like one cohesive piece, as I've understood.
Right. The thing is, all of the songs, like it was like then 15 songs, I think, with both records combined, 15 and 16 songs, were recorded as the same album, and at some point it just kind of, so it's a huge thing where you wanna have people listening to that stuff, of course, and you wanna like give them what they want in some way. Of course, like it's about me, and it's about me making music that I enjoy and I like. But I've released albums with The Void of Light, especially, where I put like two really fucking harsh black metal songs, like schizophrenic stuff, at the first two songs, and the rest of the album was like depressive fucking post at some point, I guess, post black metal. So it, like, people listened to the first two songs and then they just turned off, or people were disappointed that it's not depressive stuff when it actually was like the saddest thing I've ever done in my life. So it's important to have this vision throughout an album, and the songs just kind of over the last 3 or 4 years I've been writing those songs, they just kind of split apart into two things, because there was that angry side, definitely, and that really pissed off side. And then there was also like the side where I was, sitting in nature actually and enjoying it a lot, and this being good for me to cope with things. And I think that's a lot more Waldgeyst, a lot more the other record is the times where I was actually really happy with nature, which is actually funny, because I think the more sad songs are on Waldgeyst, definitely. There's like, I don't even know if I want to share it. Maybe I'll cut it out. But there's like this one song from No Love, No Lust, which is actually one of the less experimental ones, because it's pretty much just blast beats and some distorted guitars and me screaming. But that was written in a point of time where it had to be written at that point in time. I couldn't have written and sung that song 1 week after. Like, things changed so fast, and it was after a suicide attempt of a loved one that I found laying in my apartment, and it just fucked with me a lot. And having that experience and just being able to work that into a piece of music makes me extremely proud. Like I did something with that, and I feel it translates, at least for me and for everybody. I've told that story a lot more. Listening to that song gets under my fucking skin, of course, because I know when I wrote that, and I know why I wrote that, and I know how I felt at that time, at least in some regard. And this is a thing that happened a lot on Waldgeyst. These very traumatizing and just like, yeah, shattering things for me have been worked into that record a lot. And I think that's a lot less direct as Hailing the Coward Moon, where I was just like pissed. In Hailing the Coward Moon, I was like really pissed at the moon and at people, also at like some, actually one song, Trarihuam, pretty much just means kill yourself in Austrian slang, was about this guy I really hated from the scene, who's never really done anything but thinks like he's the fucking coolest guy. And then I got fucking nothing to prove to him, pretty much. So I was just like pissed and Hailing. But in Waldgeyst, there was a lot of just like experimenting with how I'm gonna move on and how I'm gonna live my life. And I think that also translates into the music part of it, into the instrumental part of it a lot, because I was experimenting. I was trying to figure out things. And there's another point I want to make with the instruments in general, because as I've said, a lot of inspiration has come from outside of black metal and outside of this music. So I was really into bluegrass and folk in the last couple of years. So that's definitely been an inspiration. And of course, the singer-songwriter stuff, as I said, with just some guys with their banjo or their acoustic guitar singing, and that's all the song is, and that's all it really needs. No percussion, no huge band or anything. And I think it's fascinating that we can do that in black metal and still call it black metal, and people will be fine with it. I think.
Well, it depends.
It really depends.
You're always gonna have.
Oh yeah.
You're always going to have those dudes who say that the only real black metal is from this specific time period or done this specific way, and
right. With two guitars that sound like shit and blast beats, and that's all that black metal can be. Definitely, you got those guys. But as we've talked before, is trying to push boundaries is always a good thing for any art form. And I think in that case, we've been having a really good time with black metal in the past couple of years, or just with bands being accepted as black metal by now. I think it's really fascinating. What always comes to mind is Grift, because he makes music with his acoustic guitar. He got some blast beats in it sometimes, but in general, most of his songs are just his acoustic guitar and him singing in Swedish. And I think it's an amazing project, but like people call it black. And I've seen that live. You know, you see a guy with an acoustic guitar, and he's gonna play for an hour, and it's gonna be at a black metal venue with a black metal band playing before him and a black metal band after him, and nobody's gonna bat an eye. Everybody's gonna be like, yeah, that was a cool black metal show. But like musically broken down, that's not what black metal used to sound like, or usually sounds like. And
it's spiritually, it's black metal.
It's I'm really not sure what it is. Is it the? I think it's a lot about the intent and the nature of it, and why you do it and why you're in the scene is really important to the music itself. And I think another good example for me was always Saster. I've loved Saster's acoustic stuff, and I loved it was at some point it was Nocturnal Poisoning, I think. No, wasn't Nocturnal Poisoning he called it, and then he went back to calling it actually Saster, because he was like pissed that it's not getting attention as a project of him, and it's not called black metal, because it is just acoustic guitar, acoustic bass, and vocals. And he later went back to call it Saster again, and I think that's great, because I call that shit black metal as well, because it just makes sense. And I think at that point where I realized that, I was like, yeah, who's gonna stop me from just like releasing 2 or 3 songs in that album with only banjo? Nobody's gonna stop me. And in general, if the intent was to create a black metal album, that's gonna translate anyway. And I mean, it's been out for a month and the feedback's been great. So nobody's really complained about me that it's not black. I mean, people are definitely going to talk about that behind my back. Not that I care, but people have been really nice about it. And people have been, saying that they really enjoyed, especially the parts that are not conventionally black. And that's Waldgeyst, definitely for me.
And that makes it more black metal than most black metal.
There's a point to be made.
Maybe.
Oh my god! I think that's the point I wanted to get to like an hour ago. I wanted to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. There's this concept of inverted crosses, and inverted crosses are so cool and so anti-Christian and whatever. For me, at least, I wanted to form this as a question. I'm just gonna say what I think is that crosses that are not inverted and are just like regular crosses that you have not. You have not turned the cross because you hate Christians are a lot more blasphemous than crosses actually being turned around. I think if you're on stage with actual Christian symbolism, I think that's making a lot more of a mockery than following what everybody else is doing, because this is blasphemous. Like you take the symbolism that they have and you just completely fucking make fun of it and are like, yeah, I'm a Christian, definitely. Like that's a thing, definitely, yeah.
I think that, again, it depends on how you do it. Mm-hmm. Because I certainly see how it could be used and how it could fit into the whole black metal thing. But, if you're just wearing a cross, then it's not really making any points.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have anything against inverted crosses. I think they're fine. Like they're great. They're part of the scene, and I think it makes a lot of sense that they exist and that they're used that way. But for me, it's always been so on the nose, or it's been on the nose for the last couple of years at least. That like, of course he's gonna invert his cross. Of course he's gonna try to look evil and like do that. And I think that's just going against the grain and being like, why is he wearing that cross correctly? Like, why is he wearing an actual Christian symbol? I think that's a lot more fascinating. And that goes the same way with the instruments, where I'm like, why is he using a banjo? And like that, I mean, the banjo is not really the craziest instrument anymore. Like I get a lot of feedback from Tartu, of course, or any other random band that has used the banjo. I think it's a great instrument. I just real quick, as some context, it only just happened because I was really enthralled with the sound of the instrument itself, and I talked about it for like a year, and then my bandmates just gifted me one at one point for like Christmas or anything, and ever since then it's been just like incorporated into every project we have, just because it like makes a lot of sense. People will look at it and like whether they see the because for one band we only use it as the intro, for another we only use it as the intro. It's only for like the first 3 minutes we use that banjo, but after that I'm gonna take that banjo and just put it on the side. And there's two kinds of things that can happen. Is that either people see that intro and are like, that was a cool intro, I wonder if they're gonna put the banjo back again on stage, and we just never do it. And they're gonna remember that. Or what's even funnier is people coming like midway through the set and seeing that fucking banjo standing there, and they're like left confused, like, what, did I miss something, or did that already are they gonna bring out the banjo in again? And I think it's really it's a good way of keeping people there, or forcing people there, just because they wanna see what's gonna happen to that fucking banjo. So that's the thing that's always worked out for us. Other than that, I think it's just a cool instrument that can sound really fucking interesting.
You know what else can sound really interesting in black metal?
What?
Ukulele.
Oh, I got one of those. Yeah, I put it in.
Dude,
yeah.
A band where I play drums in, like a depressive suicidal black metal slash black gaze kind of thing. The person who writes the music, it's his solo project. He uses ukulele on some songs, and if you add distortion to it, it is one of the most black metal sounding things ever.
Yeah, I think it's also with depressive stuff you say, it can sound so fucking sad. It can sound so fucking gut-wrenchingly sad, and I think that's also fair because this is not an instrument. The ukulele is not like known for sounding sad. It's quite the opposite, and I think stripping this of that context and just being like, I'm gonna use it for fucking depressive black metal is always great. I did that once.
I will send you some
please
music
do,
later.
Yeah, definitely. I did that once actually, and I just looked. I think it was like this 10-minute song, "A Constant State of Nothingness" from the Void of Light, where I actually did it as well. Oh fuck you. Where I did it as well, it was only for like a minute, and it's like also mashed up with a lot of other instruments as well, with the guitars and the drums and all. But it's there, and I think it's really cool to look back and be like, there's a ukulele there, and it works. It really works. It's just a really sad riff, and I loved it as well. Definitely taking things that are not usually known for being sad or angry or anything, and just like butchering them and saying this, and now it works. It does a lot of times.
Yeah. Because you're letting go of what makes sense and just leaning purely into what feels right.
I love that.
The house where I am currently at, in the basement, it has venue Hell, which is the smaller stage at Tarbariitus. Then on the first floor, there are some musicians doing their rehearsal rooms and studios and stuff. On the third, or like, the ground floor. Then the second floor is the other venue that Tarbariitus takes place at, which is called Rock and Roll Heaven.
So it's the same building. I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same building, and Rock and Roll Heaven used to be Rock and Roll Hell, and it used to be downstairs. At some point, it moved upstairs to bigger rooms,
that's
and
smart,
now there's. Now there's Punk and Roll Hell is downstairs, and also our rehearsal room is also in this house. So the whole building is occupied by musicians.
Oh man, I love those places. In general, it's just like I've been to so many cool rehearsal rooms where it's just an old factory being converted into. I mean, and like the thing is, in most cases, you get ripped off like a lot from just like people who really want to like make money through musicians that don't have any. It sucks in general, but what happens? I mean, there's a really funny anecdote from our rehearsal room, because ours has always been something we actually owned. We've had the privilege of actually we started in a rehearsal room that was owned by our family pretty much, in an old house that was not being used anymore, our old family house, and we were able to rehearse in the living room pretty much and set up a drum set and everything like that. We were later pretty much kicked out by the neighbors because we were of course way too loud. Didn't really care about any padding or anything. But then we went into, because my brother actually bought a house at some point, and he was like, we can do this in the basement. And ever since then, we've been in his basement, and it's been great, because that just means no rent, no electricity bills or anything. He just pays everything, and we just like bring the beer. And we've been really privileged in that regard. But of course, I've played in other bands that don't have that privilege. And it's really interesting to get to these places from old, as I said, like old tire companies and things like that being converted into those rooms. What I actually wanted to say is that at one point my brother was really obsessed with the thought of making it a lot more clean and like good to work at that our rehearsal room. And our rehearsal room has always been fucked. Like it's a very it looks like 99% like your background. Like it's just things being DIY'd and like foam and cardboard and things like that lying around, and just like some posters on the wall that fall off on one edge. Like this is a thing that's been like cables lying around everywhere. It's always been chaos. And at one point he got really into the idea of just like organizing this, and I mean it happens at some points, like you have a gig and you come back and you take the time to actually properly sort the cables again, and it's gonna look good for like a week, and then everything's gonna be back to normal. But the thing is, Yeah, the thing is, he was really trying to make it a clean and good rehearsal room where we can just like go in, not even have to plug in anything, like everything's already set up, and we can just like stand in this clean and good room where it sounds everything sounds good and everything's perfect, and we got like good proper flooring that looks cohesive, and on the walls there is absolutely nothing but like maybe some camo net or anything like that looks cool, but it looks clean and good, and I've like there's rare occasions where I've ever been so against something than that time, because I was so against that idea. There's a lot of creativity to be found in a chaotic workplace, and that this goes for not music or black metal in general, but like art in general. Like you look at workshops from big artists, and they will have things lying around everywhere, and I think that space of things lying around and being chaotic adds a lot to the music and to the process of writing music, especially for me at least. So I've always found it really difficult to record or write music in places where it's just like really clean and nice, because that just doesn't feel right. That's not the energy and the thing I want to get across. I want to get this chaotic thing across, and I can't do that in a room that's perfect.
Because it's not natural.
It's not natural.
In nature, nothing is perfect. Like nature always tends to move towards chaos.
There is no such thing as a straight line in the entire. Like you won't find a straight line anywhere in nature. That's the whole point. It will always be crooked a little bit, or like swerve off a little bit chaotically, and I don't want my music to sound like I spent fucking 3 years in the studio trying to figure out every frequency that actually has this tiny small thing I can hear in my I don't care about that stuff, because I want to be in the rehearsal room and I want to record that stuff afterwards, and I just want it to come across as natural. Yeah, that's definitely a case. One thing that ended up happening still about, I forgot that about the rehearsal room. We had this wall of, because we've been rehearsing ever since we were like 16 or 17, and we've had the first rehearsal room from this age onward, and of course we've like developed other music tastes by then, because it started with being into metalcore and whatever it is that those gateway bands that exist, and that's completely fine. I'm not like embarrassed about that stuff, and it's been really important for me on my journey as a person and as a musician to have that be my past. And the thing is, I really don't want to forget that. I don't want to like stop talking about it and be like, no, I've always been into fucking black metal. No, I've never listened to poser music or whatever. I don't fucking care about that term at all. And like, I think if you care about it, you shouldn't be in black metal. But that's a different topic. Like caring about those critiques, even, it's like not black metal at all. But what I was gonna say is that we had this wall of just like, because things just happened. We started collecting posters and like band photos and whatever from bands we liked, and that was at that point was this like big wall with Slipknot and Amon Amarth and whatever we could find, pretty much. Just of these big bands that we don't listen to anymore, or we didn't listen to even a year after putting them up again. And what ended up happening is that we still kept them for some reason. They were on that wall, and when we moved rehearsal rooms, we took those things and put them on the new wall. None of us listened to that stuff anymore actively, and we were all like, but it just like made sense. And what ended up happening was really sad, because my brother at some point with the whole thing with trying to clean up our rehearsal room just fucking took those things and threw them in the trash. And I was so fucking sad. I was really sad. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I got really pissed. I got really angry and pissed at him. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you throwing this away? Like, and he had a fair point. Definitely, we don't listen to this stuff anymore. We don't really identify with it anymore. Like, of course he can throw it away in theory, but there was a lot of history, and I think it's fascinating that we took them with us, even though none of them really mattered anymore. And just throwing them away seemed like such a waste. What ended up happening is that I, like 10 minutes after that talk, I went through his trash and took out like everything I could find. It was torn apart at that point and ripped apart into like 6 different posters, and it was horrible. I took all of those things. I put them in one fucking batch. They were like bunched up as balls and whatever, and I took them home, laid out like fucking 2 meters of cardboard and try to like play fucking puzzle with them and put them together again. An important thing I skipped is before he threw it away. That's also like a thing that made it a lot more special to me, is that at one point we figured out that those posters don't really reflect what we do anymore, and I didn't know what to do with it, because we were definitely talking about like putting them away, or some people already started putting some posters away, and I was like, I don't know, it feels like a waste. What I did is sprayed over actually the sigil of Lucifer over like all of them, because they were all bunched up. So I sprayed over like a gigantic sigil of Lucifer, and like I think I wrote "fuck off," and I like sprayed over some faces of some guys because I thought it was funny, and that made it a lot more special to me, of course, and made it a lot more easy to put them together again, because I could like refigure out the sigil of Lucifer and how it should look. I put it on that cardboard and I glued it all together. I just like, I think it was pretty much just like duct tape, and like duct tape all of it together, put it on a string and took it back to the rehearsal room like a week later, and put it back up. And now it's not on the wall directly, it can hang, and you can put it down if you want, but it's still there. And it's an amazing project. I love it. Yeah, I think I'm actually, because I can edit it, I can put up a picture of it now, which is really crazy to think about. But I'll put up a picture of it.
In a way, it's so stupid.
Definitely.
But at the same time, it like the story behind it is really awesome.
And I think throwing it away would have been like such a waste. Now I was really mad at him. I was not happy when he said that. Yeah.
I don't think I have anything even remotely like that.
Right.
Like, I don't remember my teenage years for the most part. I have no like memorabilia from my teenage years. Nothing. Like everything I do is in the moment. Like
it's really interesting. When did you get into the scene in general? Was that part of your youth? When I was like 14, 15. Yeah, right. Okay.
And I started like going out and meeting other people from the scene when I was around like 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
And
just all a blur.
I don't know, it is all a blur, and most of it is like really hard times, bad times.
Yeah, right.
So there's not a lot to remember.
Right.
And everything that there is, that maybe, I don't wish I could remember. If I could change anything about my life, like go back, I wouldn't do anything differently.
Right,
because
definitely.
The way I am now, and the experiences I have now are all because of the past. And there's nothing to change, I'm where I am supposed to be, and I'm gonna move forward towards the direction that I think is proper. But yeah, I can definitely see why such small things can be that important, or
definitely.
that it's not even like a big part of you, but it is a small thing that just, I guess you felt it needed to be there.
Right. It's funny to think about, because in general, yes, it's like a piece of trash. Like this is just a piece of trash, and I think it boils down to the same thing that I keep talking about, is creating something new out of this stuff and upcycling that shit. Because it's just, it changed meaning like so many times throughout the years. And at first it was like we really enjoyed those bands and we wanted them around. At some point we were just confused about why like we don't listen to that stuff anymore, and we listen to other stuff now, and we still appreciate it. And I think that's an important thing for me and our friend group at least, is that we keep true to that stuff, because we won't deny that we listened to that stuff and we did that stuff. There's a really interesting thing happening. There's like really interesting things happening sometimes when you see bands that have 0 entries on the Metal Archives as their artist, but they make like really good music, and it's sometimes I look at that and I'm kind of weirded out because like I kind of don't believe you. Sometimes I just don't believe those people. I don't believe that this is their first project, that this is the first thing they really actually did. And a lot of the times it has turned out that they actually were involved in like a punk band or like a cool pop band or whatever in the past, but they just like don't want to talk about it, and they won't talk about it because that's not the cool black metal persona they got now, and that's not the cool artist that they are now and the respected one. And I think that sucks. Like there's I really don't wanna talk about Kanonenfieber, but like man, we got really harsh opinions on that guy. What happens is that there's very obvious and very how can I say, we know, like everybody, you can find out that guy has played in like a pop punk band, but he will outright deny it because it's not cool. That's not black metal, so he cannot talk about it. That's gonna be kept a secret. And like,
wow,
that itself, yeah, right, is such fucking stupid. I just hate it. Like that makes you so much less respected as an artist. I think stay true to yourself, and that's the point. I think just stay true to what you did and how you ended up here. Because I didn't end up here because I was born a cool misanthropic guy or whatever. I ended up here because I listened to a lot of deathcore, and I liked deathcore when I was 14. And at some point I stumbled across Der Weg einer Freiheit, and that was all that happened. I stumbled upon post-black metal, and I was like, that's how black metal can sound, really, actually? And it ended up with me just like completely being deranged and now listening to the worst recorded stuff you can find. And I think that's an amazing segue to go into recording quality, as you wanted.
Yeah, like I wanted to just say that I am in a way the same as you. You know, we're the same age. I came into the metal scene from punk.
Yeah.
I started listening to punk, then I went to like a little bit harsher punk, then I found crust punk and listened to only that pretty much because and to this day I fucking love crust punk and black and crust punk. And then came sludge metal, and I used to hate black metal.
Yeah.
I didn't stand it at all. Like I liked Burzum because of the lo-fi atmosphere. You know, I listened to a lot of Philosophem when I was like 15, 16, just to fall asleep.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about black metal. For me, Burzum was just, you know, this singular band.
Yeah.
I didn't know shit about Varg, nothing.
Yeah.
Just that the album Philosophem exists, and I heard Gorgoroth, hated it, whatever. And then at some point I found Mgwa because
that's great.
This black and crust punk band. Well, now they're black metal band, but Dödsrit.
Yeah,
Their first EP or like self-titled album. The beginning riff was almost exactly the same as Mgwa's with Hearts Toward None 1. And then I found Mgwa. Because of that, started listening to them, and well, there comes my black metal journey, right? But I can never tell anybody that, I'm a black metal dude. I only listen to black metal, because no, I come from the punk scene.
Yeah.
I grew up doing punk bands.
Yeah.
To this day, I organize shows for punk bands.
Yeah.
I play sludge, I play doom, even double a little bit in power violence, whatever.
Right,
you know, it's all still a part of me and part of the journey. Denying what you used to be in order to paint a picture of your present self as something more grand and more like, I don't know, hardcore.
Yeah.
It's lame.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. It's really fucking lame. And it goes against everything that black metal is about, in my opinion. If black metal is also about not caring. Huh?
Yeah, but so does being a pop punk vocalist. So
of course, like no, I actually don't think so. I really think if he went out there and said he played in a pop punk band for a while and now he's making that band, I would be like, that's interesting, cool. I like that you
know
ended
what
up
would
here.
be? It would be more black metal if you went and did the pop punk band now.
Yeah, that like, and that's a different. That's also an interesting thing. I got a parallel, not from black metal, but from Code Orange. I think Code Orange was really fascinating. Back when they were just rebranding from Code Orange Kids to Code Orange, they had Adventures was that. You ever heard of those guys? Because it's so interesting. Like Code Orange blew up, and I think their new stuff fucking sucks. But they had like really good records that I still actively listen to. Some points. They were like really fucking. They're like so angry. I like it. I like how fucking angry they were. They make like really angry hardcore, and I think it's really innovative stuff at some points, especially at the first points. Like they started as power violence and like just kept innovating, and it's a great band all in all. But they're like known for being that angry fucking band, and you will see them as like people will talk about them in that light. And while all of that was going on, they were simultaneously playing in Adventures, and I think it's so fucking interesting to see a music video of Code Orange Kids and Adventures. I'm gonna send that stuff to you later, because you can see that there's 4 or 5 people from both bands they're in the same bands, but one of them is like really cute and like good indie pop. Like this is indie pop music. I can't really describe it as anything else. Like clean vocals, clean guitars, and like really good stuff actually. And at the other point, there's just like a fucking bald person smashing his head against the wall and like people fucking drop kicking each other. It's so fucking interesting. And I think that actually gave me a lot more respect for them as people and as musicians, because they didn't hide that fact. They stopped Adventures actually because they just focused on Code Orange. But in general, they didn't hide that. And I think that grants them a lot of authenticity, and I just can't stand people that don't do that. And I think in that regard, if that guy just went out there and said, hey, I played in a pop punk band, I'd of course have respect for that, because I'd be like, that's interesting, that's cool. That's all I really have about that.
Yeah, authenticity is extremely important, I think, in life in general, not just in music. Like, if you're not your authentic self, and if you constantly have to hide behind a mask or paint some imaginary picture of yourself to other people, then, well, there's something wrong. And, of course, we all present ourselves differently to different people. Like, I'm not talking to you like I talk to my girlfriend, for example, right?
Definitely.
But,
or my coworkers. Yeah.
But,
it's like,
but there's still this, coworkers. Good example. But there's always, if you talk to me, at least I hope you can sense a level of authenticity. You know.
Right.
I'm not trying to act like something that I'm not in front of you, and or like sound or look,
you know.
And
what
that's
sorry, you want to say
that is an excellent way to like steer into the topic of sound production, sound quality.
Well, I'm gonna throw a curveball before you finish that.
Okay, well,
because as I've had what I think is always really important about that stuff is that if you're a different person, from talking to a coworker to talking to your girlfriend to talking to your friends to talking at festivals or talking on this podcast, like you're gonna be a different person, but you're not actually gonna be a different person. I think that's where the authenticity shines really through, is that you're not really acting like someone else, but you're just like prioritizing one part of yourself that's actually there. And that's always the important thing about it, is that like you accentuate one part of yourself other than you just make up one part of yourself. And I think as long as you do that, you will always be your authentic self. And I think that also boils down to what I've had really interesting talks about people with is a cool stage presence, a good stage presence, or a good image, and like in general, it's just like people you talk about that are like really cool in the scene, and like that's a cool guy, will always be people that like have this one part of themselves that they accentuate to the like to the max. And that's a thing you do on stage a lot as well. You take that part of either you're completely misanthropic and you take that part and put it up to 11, or you take as a progressive band that part of you doing absolutely horrible things to yourself and being completely self-destructive, and you put that to 11, and you're gonna look cool on stage and good on stage, and people are gonna buy that because that's your authentic self, but just turned up to 11. And I think that's a lot more reasonable and a lot more authentic and cool than just making up that sad part of yourself that doesn't actually exist, or that nice part of yourself that cares about your coworkers.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because if I think about myself on stage, I am definitely a lot more aggressive. For example, I am an angry person, and like I have really aggressive thoughts, and I just like on stage that comes through.
Right.
A lot in everyday life, I wouldn't be a functioning human being if I was as aggressive with everybody like I'm on stage. So, I agree with your point.
I also just I fucking lose my shit. Like, it's like a general what do you say? It's a combination of like a lot of parts of myself, but in general, I think Perditus has always channels the very self-destructive part of myself, which I don't have in my day-to-day life. Like I've been living a really good life for like the past couple of years. Like I've had my struggles definitely, but I've kind of figured it out for myself. Like I enjoy existence by now, but the thing is, just like Perditus just gets me back a lot, and that's part of course the reason is because I create that music in parts where I'm not feeling good a lot, and just like coming back to that situation again and reliving that stuff on stage again will make me feel bad, and I think it should. It's like, if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't be producing authentic music, I think. And I think it's quite sad, or like quite not even sad, it's just like shocking to myself even, because I've brought like people have seen me perform live or on stage with random bands, and like I will also, and like as everyone will be a different person on stage and will put a lot more of me out there than I would be in person if you just talk to me. But with Perditus, of course, that fucking accumulates to one big thing, because this is me. This is 100% me and what I wanted to do at that time and what I built into that music. And like there's no outside input in it, like absolutely none. This is 100% me. Of course, that's gonna fuck me up. And what's actually been happening, what I think is really fascinating, is that for the past year, it's a very recent thing actually. I've kind of started to actually be all right after rehearsals, because what happened in like the better half of this year was after every rehearsal I was fucked. Like I'm gonna like be a good person. I'm gonna be like a very healthy person before that rehearsal, and after that rehearsal I'm just gonna stand there and be like, man, nothing fucking matters. I fucking hate everything. And I think that's just been kind of getting a lot less and less. I can actually make jokes between songs now, which is not a thing that I was able to do. I was just like getting so into it that I had absolutely no real connection to the world right now and to the actual situation, which is pretty good. I have a good living situation, but like in that moment, all I could think about is about a few years back when that and that happened, whatever the fuck I was in. And on stage, it's even more harsh, and I think I actually don't want to lose that, because I think it makes for a good show, and that's the whole part of it. But it'll always fuck me up, and I think it's so fascinating and also kind of scary that I hear this from my partners as well. When I bring my partner to a gig, I've heard like multiple times, and that from my friends as well, and like especially from my partner, it's just fucked. After the show, I'm gonna be like sitting in some random corner outside, just grasping for air because I don't fucking get any, and I'm gonna sit there for like half an hour and nobody, like, you can talk to me and I will talk back to you, but I will not like string cohesive sentences. That's just not gonna happen. And what ends up happening on stage as well is that like they get scared of me, and I think I think that's fascinating. Just like a person that knows me for so long and like has been living with me also, that they still get scared of me and like of what I'm gonna do to them or myself or anything on that stage is such an interesting and also scary concept. Because I mean,
it is interesting because I have been told the exact same thing
that's great.
several times.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm performing on vocals.
It's always that fucks me up the most as well. But how do you like react to that? How do you like? I don't know.
Well, I don't think I do in any way.
Yeah.
Like I would like to think that it's a compliment because it shows that I have stage presence and character, I think.
Right.
But at the same time, I guess I don't really care. I'm just doing what I do in a way that feels natural, and if it has an effect, on somebody, then good. If it doesn't, well, then I have to do my job better.
That's the thing. I don't like. I definitely get that because of course, and that's why I don't want to change it, and I fear that maybe after like I've had like 20 shows or something like that, it's gonna dump down to that, and I really don't want that to happen. But like this is what our like third show, I think, and it's I mean like Tarbariitus is still gonna be fucked, so I'm still gonna be fucked after that show, but I don't know. It is scary to think about, and I mean I got myself in control. I'd say that, but in general, of course it scares me as well. But in general, I think it's great. It's good. Like it's good because people will remember that. And last show was really funny because we had a lot of technical stuff. Also because we didn't rehearse as well as we should have. Other than that, like a lot of fucking technical things went wrong with just guitars unplugging and whatever. And one of the guys that watched the show after the show went up to me and was like you had a lot of technical problems, but actually I really preferred that because you got a lot more angry because of that, and I think that made for a better show. And I think that's really fascinating. I was like, I mean, I guess, of course, because I was pissed. I was like not happy with having technical problems, not rehearsing a lot, and that kind of made the show a lot better, which is also interesting to think about.
It's I had moments where we rehearse extensively before a live show and it just turns out shit, and sometimes you go on stage with no rehearsal and you're expecting it to be shit and you're just already pissed off and angry, and then it turns to be out one of the best shows of your fucking entire career.
I think the theory on it is always that the rehearsal before the gig always has to suck, because if it's really bad, then the show's gonna be great, and if it's good, then you're gonna be like, that's not gonna happen. Like the show's gonna suck. I think that's the theory on that. That's
something to think about.
Definitely.
But coming back to your music, do you feel like constantly reliving those memories or experiences or feelings? Does it help you to grow as a person also, or does it help you to cope with them better?
No, I don't think that.
No,
and I think that's the fascinating part about it, because me reminding myself of that shit happening is never a case of it's never a case of growing. It's never a case of I remind myself that happened and I've grown from that. I always just like, I cannot get out of my head the thought of like I cannot get into that space of being like this happened for because of that, and this happened because of that. Like I think about that on a rational level when I'm not creating music, when I'm not making the music, and when I'm not performing it. Other than that, I can think about stuff, and like I'm very fine with where I am right now. And as you said earlier, is like I would not be here if those things didn't happen. And I think that's great. And I think it's fine that those things happen, because they made me into a good person that I want to be. And the thing is still that every time I perform or I rehearse these songs, I cannot get into that mind. I cannot get into that space. I will always be just like transported back and think about nothing else than how I felt at that time. And I actually don't know if I want to change that, because there goes the same thing with like, if I change it and if I get actually into the mind of this was actually fine that this happened, at some point I'm just not gonna be the same person on stage again, because I want to be that guy. I want to like relive it. And I think there is definitely something cathartic about reliving that stuff. And there is something to be learned about picking up past traumas and like thinking about that stuff and like being like, this is what I went through and this is how I reacted to it. But in general, I think in my music or in my definition of black metal, that just doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen for me. And this is also why I, yeah, you say?
Does it limit you in any way? It does that sort of approach. Does it mean that there are some things you cannot sing about or write about because you couldn't be able to perform it, record it, whatever?
That's interesting. I don't think so, because the process usually goes that I'm in a hole, or I have an idea, or I want to work this situation into something, and then I do it. The thought of in general, the thought of playing it live or the thought of performing it live never crosses my mind, because it's been a solo project that hasn't performed live for the better of 5 or 6 years, and which is also why it's really fucking difficult to put these things on stage, because and why I can't perform a lot of songs, because they weren't written with the thought of this being performed live. So they have tunings that don't make sense, because I'm just going to record in that tuning and I'm never going to touch that song again, so it doesn't matter. But on stage, putting those tunings again, this is also why we had to order 4 guitars on stage, which I still feel really bad about. But like it's just, like we won't change into that tuning on stage. We just cannot. It's absolutely nonsense. And I think that's actually gonna be interesting in the new stuff, because I do get that thought. I've already been writing like 3 songs for a new record. I've started them. It's like only 30 seconds each, but I do have that thought in my head now that maybe I'm gonna perform it live, and that's never been a thing in the past. So that's gonna be interesting for the future stuff, definitely. On an emotional level, I don't think I'm gonna limit this. I'm gonna let this limit me, because I know that this has been in the recording process cathartic, and I'm most proud of the songs that I know have been written in those situations where I'm like at my lowest, and I think those are the most authentic and cool and good songs I've ever written, because I just know that they were written in that certain point in time. But that's a really interesting thought. Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work out in the future. I'm probably gonna think about maybe playing it live more, and that's probably gonna change my music in some way, but I haven't figured that out yet.
Well, we can look back on this conversation a few years past, right, and see what has changed.
I don't plan on stopping.
Neither do I.
Perfect.
I'm gonna ask you again, what can we expect of Perditus performance at Tarbariitus?
I really want to give you like a cohesive and good answer, but actually I haven't like 100% figured it out yet. I figured it out for like 90%. Ever since the slot for the slot for when we play, I really didn't know. We never really talked about it. I just found out about us playing at like the latest hour on one stage as the last act like a month ago. So I tried to like I've been changing the set list a bit. Not actually the songs, because the songs are gonna stay the same. Of course, we're not gonna change the songs pretty much that we had planned, but like the order of it. And I think that goes back to the point I made earlier when I was like talking about albums and the first 1 or 2 songs kind of have to like set a tone for the whole show. And that's what I've been kind of struggling with. I think so. As far as it stands now, we're gonna do our regular intro, which pretty much just means the set is gonna consist of a lot of stuff from all of my records. So since the stuff goes back a bit, half of the set is the new records, definitely. So that's gonna be a thing. Half of the set is gonna be Waldgeyst and Hailing, and the other half is just random songs from random albums I've made in random records. And the thing is, I kind of tried to get it be cohesive in some way. So always expect like 3 songs in one genre or in one type, and then I'm gonna play 3 songs in that type. So that pretty much just means 3 songs in a folk settings, pretty much. So we got like banjo and percussion and things like that. And after that, I can drastically and brutally shift to the most fucking pissed off black metal you will ever see. And then after that, it will maybe shift to something depressive again. So I try to like put them together at least, and like at least. Because this is kind of hard. This has been a really strange process, just trying to figure out how to connect those records, because every record has been recorded at such a different stage of my life that they all sound different, at least to me. And like in general, just genre-wise, they are not everything's the same thing. But you can definitely connect like a song from that record to a song from that record. I think I can spoil it already, but we're gonna play the song that's Pērkons Mēnessi, the one that's in Lithuanian. And after that, Desolation, Darkness Prevails, which are from very different records, but in general just like have the same aggression. So it's the first song from Hailing and like the first song from Desolation, and they just like work together a lot, and that's gonna happen. I'm just gonna like jump around the records and time periods. Other than that, we're gonna switch a lot. I love like forcing my bandmates, or like in general just like pushing my bandmates and pushing myself as well, to play a lot of different instruments on stage. I think it's really interesting to just see a band transform on stage and from song to song switch their instruments a lot. There's like one song where my brother, the drummer, actually just plays the chain, so he just like stands there and plays the chain for like a whole song. And I think that's like that's the stuff I talk about. Like I try to keep it like interesting, because I don't want to be this thing on stage that's like just this normal black metal band that just like has their 2 guitarists and the bassist and the drummer, because I don't feel like that's what I've been doing with Perditus. I've been trying to push myself, so I tried to put this on stage as well. So yeah.
So it's definitely going to be a show worth looking forward to.
Probably. I mean,
at least sounds like it.
I feel like there's been a lot of trust put into me, giving me that slot. So I think you guys believe that I'm gonna put up a good show, so I'm gonna try my best, and I think it's gonna be fine. Yeah.
But how come that a band from Austria has a song written in Lithuanian?
Patrick actually asked me the same question like yesterday. He was the first one to ask me. You're the second guy. I talked about my whole moon fanaticism and like my hatred towards it. There was one point where I was just looking up moon symbolism in general, because as I've also said, is that I'm really into symbolism and what it means to different cultures. I stumbled across Mēnessi, and it happened to be like symbolism that I liked in my tattoos as well. And I read into it a bit more. I fell into this rabbit hole of Latvian, in general, Baltic beliefs. So like, pretty much, I don't know how to say even.
Myths?
Yeah, myths. Thank you. That's the word. What I want to say is I stumbled upon like a bunch of myths that I really liked, and one of those was Mēnessi and the sun goddess, pretty much just like the personification of the sun and moon. And Pērkons, the thunderer, the personification of the thunder, and there was a whole story behind the moon being unfaithful to his wife, the sun being, dare I say, a fucking coward, and cheating on his wife pretty much and being unfaithful to her, and the god of thunder, or thunder itself, pretty much just struck him with thunder for an eternity. And I think that visual alone just was like, that just made a lot of sense in my head. That just like really fits the theming of the whole record, just thunder on the moon, and that's why that song is called Thunder on the Moon in its at least closest language that I could find. And as far as I was able to read as a very not informed Austrian guy, is that this was a lot of Latvian stuff that they at least had at some point, that myth spread around, you know.
But the lyrics themselves, are they also in Lithuanian?
I got no, they're not.
Just the name.
Just the name, yeah. I mean, I do. That's also actually an interesting topic to cut into. What I've always found really fascinating is people jumping around, because who has ever made the rule, or who has ever like defined that a song has to be written in one language? Nobody has ever done that. And I think what I've really enjoyed a lot is also in my other bands, but especially in Perditus, is just like messing around and just switching the language 3 times in a song, because just some sentences sound really good in English, and some sentences sound really good in German, and some sentences sound really good in my native tongue, in the local dialect of Austrian. And I think just switching those things up a lot in the songs makes it really personal also, because this is 3 languages that I speak and I like. And as I've said, I think language can sound really good or like sentences can sound really good in one language and sound really embarrassing or bad in another one. So why not use both of them? Why not use the language where it sounds best in? And this is what has been happening for a while now. I think the whole native Austrian thing only started through Karg, and it's a second project, or a solo project of the guy from Harakiri for this guy from Jimbo. And he's always been singing in Austrian dialect. And this is like the first time I heard it a few years ago, and I was like so enthralled by it. And I think that's Austrian dialect is a really interesting thing for me in black metal, because I don't know how you feel about that in Estonian, because I feel that when a person says what's on their mind, and especially in like depressive music, which is what he did in Karg, and just says those things that you've been hearing for a while about, like being, in general, just being fucking sad, and that his partner wants to fucking kill herself and whatever. You hear that stuff in English a lot. Like, that's just the thing you heard a lot of times, and it doesn't really, like, it affects you, of course, but it hits so much closer to home if he's saying that exact same thing, but in your language that you're used to speak. I think that's just like, yeah.
The problem with Estonian is that it is a very simple language in my eyes, but not simple to speak. We don't have a lot of words. Many words mean the same thing, and while in English you might have like the words sorrow and sadness and despair that all mean kind of similar things, but completely different.
Yeah,
well,
right.
In Estonian, we don't have that much.
It's very boiled down to just like one word.
Like similar. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, and now the problem comes, or like the problem that it creates is that I at some point started resorting more into writing in English because I just know more words, and I can express myself better in English than in my own native tongue.
Yeah,
which is kind of sad, but at the same time I also don't really care. Right. Because if I have a feeling that I need to make a project that's sang all in Estonian, then I will do it. Right. And as you say, I can always mix the languages. I haven't done it, but
right. Okay. It's never crossed my mind until somebody else did it. So I never would have figured that out, honestly. I never would have like been there and be the guy to start singing in Austrian dialect. People have done that before, of course. But it was just so fascinating to me because I was listening to that stuff and especially, and I think I don't wanna sound pretentious about my very cool language that has very cool words, but in general I like Austrian dialect because yes, it does boil down German pretty much. It just makes words that are usually comprised of like seven letters be just one, which is crazy at some points, and we won't be able to understand each other. But that's just how dialect goes. The thing is, we got a lot of sayings. I think in general, just a lot of ways of how do you call it? synonyms, like pretty much, I think sayings in general. And I think a lot of those are like really fucking interesting because you know them from the context of like old religious people talking about that stuff and trying not to actually talk about killing themselves. I think killing yourself is my prime example for that in the Austrian dialect, because what we have is with Tradihorn, which is also a thing I try to really nail down because I love that saying at all. It pretty much just translates to turn yourself home, like turn back home, which is just such an interesting way to look at it. Another one is geh ins Wasser, which pretty much just means going into the water. Are you gonna go into the water? Which also is just like such a dramatic and just like such a wild visual of just like a person walking into the water and not coming back. You know, it's like a lot of these sayings that I think are so fascinating. It makes so much sense in this context, in the depressive and in the black especially, and hearing them in that context of black metal, and not hearing that from your grandma saying that to talk around her neighbor killing himself. It's really interesting. And yeah.
And you can't translate them properly. Like if you translate them to another language, they lose the original power, right. I guess.
And that's why would I compromise myself to sing in one language in general, just for the whole song? If I could just like switch it up and first of all, nobody's gonna care, and second of all, it's gonna make a lot more sense in that language, because words or sayings just tend to do that. They tend to make sense in one language and not in another one.
Mm-hmm. And you also create your own words.
Right, like, yeah. It is.
So maybe...
Mm-hmm. So,
where did the idea of making your own words came from? First,
also not me. Also, foremost. Definitely not original. There was Bethlehem, definitely. So Bethlehem inspired me a lot with that. With Bart, who recently parted, which was really sad actually, because I really wanted to talk to that guy once in my life. He has always been writing the lyrics for every Bethlehem record. Even though he's the bassist and was never the singer, he was always like the head of the lyrics, and he was always like behind the visuals and the general atmosphere of that band. And he was really important to that band. And at some point, because like that does make sense. If you look up the lyrics, especially like as a German speaker, it's just like they all sound so similar. They all have this very weird vibe, and they're like strange, they're like surrealist, and at one point I was just like so fascinated by what the fuck they were talking about, because they strung together words that don't really work together or don't really make sense together. And I stumbled upon I don't even know what it's called in English, but it's a Schieflin lyric. It's cryptography. It's pretty much just a cryptic way of writing lyrics or writing actually poetry. Is where it actually originates from. Is a thing that's been happening, or a way of writing poetry that's been around for a while. And he's like the only, or like one of the only people I know that's been incorporating that way of writing or that way of poetry into music. I mean, dark metal in general, that whole genre heavily does that as well in general, but I think no one has really nailed it as well as he has in the past. And what that pretty much means is just, I think the most common examples for that type of lyrics are, and I think they translate in English as well, is blue piano. That's one of those things. Just two words, blue piano. Like, it just kind of sounds weird. There's this other one from Black Milk of the Morning. That's the sentence, just black milk of the morning. And it just leaves you to think, what the fuck is black milk of the morning? But it kind of makes sense. And it's a very weird way of writing. What ends up happening is that they string together not only sentences that don't really make any coherent sense in the modern term or in the world term, they string up words together and they just like make them into one, which is a very German thing to do. We do that a lot, of course, but in general, a lot of those words don't have any real meaning in that context. They only have meaning in that and only for yourself. And I think that's boils down to the whole letting go thing again, because there's words that I've written down and lyrics I've written down that only made sense at that point, and I like afterwards I'm gonna look at that word and it's gonna have a different definition a year after, and I'm not gonna know what I actually meant with that back then, but it's fine because I can still find some definition for it. And then there's also words that just like seem like they should be words that just are so close to actual words that exist that you're like, how is this not an actual word? And you're just gonna use it. I think that's great. And again, nobody's gonna stop you. Like, why not do that? Nobody's gonna stop you from using words that don't exist. I think also just it's also just a cool way of pushing the medium.
I mean, language in any way is just we assigned meaning to combination of different vowels, letters, whatever. So why not make up your own?
Language.
Do you have any examples?
Right, words in language don't have a cosmic meaning. They can't, and that's again a thing. They cannot be designed. They cannot like be defined by science because that's not phonetically. They just like ended up meaning that. That's yeah. So why not make up ones? Do I got any examples? Like I keep coming back to verliebt, which is a German thing I've figured out at some point, which definitely sounds like a word because it's like one letter off from verliebt, which just means in love. And the thing is, lieben und leben also are two words that means love and live, and they're only one letter apart. What happened with that word is verliebt is just like and fair is also just like ich habe mich vertan pretty much means I fucked up. What it boils down to is I have mislived. That's the best way of putting it pretty much. I've mislived. I've lived wrong. I've did something wrong in my life and I have taken a wrong turn pretty much. Ich habe mich verliebt is what I said a lot of times. And yeah, that's a word that keeps coming back. In general, calling back to older songs is an interesting thing I can also talk about because that's a thing that happens a lot. I keep repeating the same 2 or 3 sentences that you'll be like, if you really like, I don't really post them anywhere most of the time, but in general, if you look back to the lyrics from my first stuff and from my recent stuff, I've recycled some sentences word for word in the new record that I've used in the first record or I've used with another project. I wish I would have prepared some better examples for that now. I think one of them is so one thing I keep coming back to is the storm in general, being the storm. As a thing I keep coming back to, or storms, I guess. There was one point I said, I'm the storm that watches over you. And in this record I've been like, I guess I'm not a storm at some point, which just makes a cool callback to what I did past back then, because I figured out that I guess it wasn't my fault pretty much. So you can boil it down to that. And I think calling back to what you did, and I think that's also, I love just the whole fact of stealing from yourself, because who's gonna complain? Who's gonna judge about actually stealing words that you yourself wrote? Nobody's gonna complain about it. You can do that, and I think you should do that because it's just cool. It's just good.
Yeah, it reminds me when one of my favorite bands from Estonia, I used to like explore the lyrics at some point. It was years ago, and I went to the vocalist and asked like, "Yo, in that song you use that sentence, and like an album later, there's this other song, and you're saying the same thing again." And he just looked at me and was like, "So what?"
Yeah, yeah, it's a good reaction. And, so what? Yeah.
And at that moment I was like, wait, you can do that?
Right,
I don't have to. Yeah. I don't have to write original material every time when I have already created something that encapsulates the idea much better.
Right, and that's the idea. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. For me, I think it was Death Spell Omega. It was like very directly Death Spell Omega with what was it called? Pērkons, the orange one. Everybody's listening to. Because it had a song like the second song, I think, or the second or the third song had this intro that was like a minute long, which is a really cool intro with just like in general, a cool song. And the first minute is entirely like 100% copied onto the 7th song. And listening to that record was so weird, like the first few times, because at some point I was listening to it, like I listened to it from the beginning to the end, and I was like, I know that riff. Why do I know that? I've only been listening to this record for a while, and it's such a weird callback. And then I was like, man, wait, but I heard that riff before. I swear they did that again. And I started looking back at the songs I heard before, and then I figured out they like 100% copied the first minute, and they evolve into different songs, funnily enough, after that. Like they're entirely different. Like the I don't know, the 6th riff or something like that changes, and then the whole song goes in a different direction, but the first minute is verse to verse the same thing as the other song. And that was also for me like one of those moments where I was like, you can do that, you can like call back and recycle your own stuff. And it's been happening for me lyrically, definitely. I think musically as well. At some points, I've called back with some like lead parts to other melodies I've written before. But in general, I think it's more of a lyrical thing where I call back to things I've said in the past and maybe correct them or like change what they mean to me now. I think it's great, yeah. But that was definitely the best way for me, yeah.
And it also ties everything like together better.
It does, yeah, definitely.
To make a more like complete.
Yeah.
I don't know, not discography, but your whole musical piece of art that you're putting out there. You know, it ties it all together.
They're a lot more connected, and I think as it always goes, it makes it a lot more personal. It's just me repeating sentences that I've said in the past that mean different things to me now, and I think that's great. There's also this one motive of me what was it? Carving signs on, or in German, Sätze, Zeichen auf schneebedeckten Gräbern. Pretty much means I'm setting, or I'm placing sigils and signs on snow-covered graves, which is also one of those sentences that just came to me and was like, that's a really strong sentence. And to be completely honest, I haven't figured out what that sentence means up until now. I really haven't. I've used it like 3 times, I think. And it does mean something to me, definitely. Like I can tell you like 7 interpretations of it, but I really haven't figured it out entirely. I don't know what I really meant with that one. But for me right now, if you really ask me, it's about trying to at least prove that there's, or at least that one tiny part in myself that's trying to live after my death. There's this really cool line from, or this, actually, I think it's a song title even from Fluis de Ras, which translates from, what the fuck is, it's not Netherlandish. What's the Danish? Is it Danish? No.
Fluis de Ras is from Netherlands.
Yeah, but what's their language?
They speak their own language.
Yeah, they do, but like, what's it called in English?
I don't know, Netherlandish.
It's not Netherlandish, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Wait, Netherlands language. It's Dutch, right? It's Dutch, yeah, I had that right. Okay.
Dutch,
yeah.
Yes.
In Dutch, they say, brand wordt in mijn graf. I've butchered that, but it pretty much just means there's fire burning in my grave. And I think that's a really strong title, and also one of those that probably works really good in Dutch. That sounds really good in Dutch. I think it translates well. It translates well to German and English as well. But fire in my grave. There will always be fire in my grave. When I die, I'm not gonna die. That's the point I'm trying to hammer down here, and that's the point I'm making with that sentence, at least for me, is that even though I've died and I'm in my grave, there is still some part of me that's gonna survive. And if that's only for 10 years after my death, that's fine with me. I still left some mark on some people. And though I don't really care what comes after me, that of course is a cool thing for an artist to have, I guess, just to be remembered. Not that that's the thing, I don't really care in the grand scheme of things, but just having an impact on people will always, of course, leave you with heavy emotions, just hearing that from people. I don't know how have you have people, if you say to yourself you're singing, and especially as the vocalist, that happens a lot, I think, is that people come up to you and say that your music has affected them in some way.
I once got told.
How do you react to that?
Different every time, because once I was on stage and between the songs some young girl looks up to me and tells me that my music saved her life.
That's so fucked.
And I'm like
fucked up thing. Yeah.
You know, it's a moment where you would maybe want to have a few words with them or something, but I'm on stage, I have to perform. So what do I say?
Right.
I just.
Oh, that's a.
I think I just signaled her that it means a lot to me, and I had to continue with the show. But off stage, the most I have gotten is that people have expressed that they like how I usually write about topics that matter. You know, topics that affect them or people around them. You know. That they feel that they're not alone with their struggles, stuff like that, and or just topics that are, you know, important in our local scene or in the scene in general, I guess. But you know, how I react to those things comes down to first what mood I am in.
Of course.
The setting, and also how the person approaches me, and also their age, because it's much easier to talk to people that are my age or older than to some young kids who really look up to me, and because for somebody younger, people like us who are on stage and doing important stuff
for them.
For them, you know, we're not just people. We are the artist.
Yeah, right.
And now you're in a position where you have to, like, I don't know. I want to show them that I am a person just like them.
Definitely, I think that's a really important thing of just like trying to connect on that level, because we're not different than them, like none, like 0%, and we will get weirded out at the fact that people will be looking up to us. I think that's always gonna be weird, and I think I'd have no idea how to react if that happened to me on stage. The same exact thing happened to me off stage, pretty much, with some guy telling me. I mean, it happened like before with good friends of mine, and I can talk to them about that stuff. When they say my music really helped them stay alive, that's always been fucking crazy. But at one point, like a year ago, somebody else was writing that to me, who I've never really talked to in my life. That's just like, it wasn't a random person, but like I haven't really talked that much to them, and they were like, your music fucking saved my life. And it's a crazy thing to hear, because you should be like thinking about it is the most reasonable response is being like, thank you, that means a lot to me. But I fucking freaked out. I really freaked out a lot, and I sent him like 6 fucking 5-minute voice messages, I think, about what the fuck he just said to me, and like what that entails. And he was a younger person, I guess, than me, but still, that's a really brutal thing to say to a person. It sounds like I scolded him. I didn't. I was really happy about it. Of course, I said that means a lot to me, but I got my opinions on especially the depressive stuff I put out, or in general depressive black metal. I thought about that stuff a lot, and I just like reacted with that and told him how that music can affect you and will affect your mental health a lot. And it was a really nice talk. It was nice, but in general, don't say that to me. Just like it will freak me out, and it will, man. It's a harsh topic.
I think that whatever people have to say to me, they can just come and say it. Definitely. No matter how good, no matter how harsh, just let it out.
No, it's not a thing like, if my music actually changed you, please say that to me. Of course, I'm gonna be happy about that, but it's gonna freak me out.
And we were talking about like what's left after we die.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already, thanks to your music, there's like one more person alive, perhaps.
Right.
So your music has already made an impact,
It's absolutely crazy to think
and
about.
quite a huge one at that.
And that's the reason why I get really freaked out about that, because that's not why I started this. I didn't want to save lives. I didn't want to have an impact on people. I just wanted to get my shit off my chest, and that's all I did. But it helps someone, and I mean that's great. But man, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I looked
mean,
at
same here.
right, yeah, no, you feel the same, definitely. I get that. I looked at my recently by pretty much by coincidence. I saw that we've been putting up music through DistroKid, who just is the middleman between us and the streaming platforms. And I saw the number on accident. I didn't even want to see it because I just chose a song for lyrics. I think, I don't know even, and I saw the number of 220 songs. We've put up 220 songs on streaming services and in general just put out online, and that number has been really staying in my mind. I think that's fucking crazy. 220 songs is so much fucking stuff we've done. It's like so much fucking art we've created. It doesn't feel like that. Like, of course we've been doing that stuff for the past 5 or 6 years, but 220 songs in 5 or 6 years is still crazy. Like, what the fuck is our problem? I don't know. But that's crazy. And yeah,
you're not talking just about Perditus, right? You're talking
That's
about
right.
all your bands.
That's all the bands combined, and also like 1 or 2 bands that I'm not directly involved in, but in general I've been a part of like all the stuff I've uploaded, at least in some part, if it's only recording it or anything. But the label itself has released over 220 songs, and I think that was even before the new release, so it's 250 by now. I think it's absolutely crazy to think about. And
Oh
that,
yeah, you
of
have
course,
your own label.
right? Yeah, that leads into
You have your own.
yeah.
How did it lead up to you making your own label and starting? I mean, it's also everything is DIY.
Yeah,
From
right.
the like, you print the album sheets yourself, and you print the CDs also yourself.
If I could, I would DIY the vinyl as well. It's the only thing I can't do, and I hate it. I can't really melt those. It's horrible. Yeah, what ended up happening is that when we were like 17 or 18, at some point the bands just kept stacking up, because I like making new projects for things. I don't do that anymore, but at that point it was me just being fascinated with a bunch of different genres, and I don't think that drone metal, technical death metal, and black metal really fitted into one project. And at one point we had 6 or 7 projects that were the same people or solo projects of mine, and I had 6 or 7 email addresses for those accounts and things like that. And just releasing them really was weird, because none of them had a label, and I didn't even want a label. And that's the thing. I'm an impatient fuck, and I've been an impatient fuck for forever, because I want to get shit out and I want to get shit done. And that's what happens to a lot of people with solo projects, or why a lot of people start solo projects. They say they don't want to wait on people to be able to rehearse with them, or to be able to record with them, or don't want to save up the money to record with them, which is the reason why I started recording myself. It's just because I don't want to wait for someone, and I don't want to pay someone to do that. And at that point, having 6 or 7 bands doing different things but still being the same people, and us not wanting to write any label at all because it's gonna take some time and they're gonna take money away from us, which we don't have, it just made sense. It just made a lot of sense. I named it Dark Realms Records. A small fun fact is that I got contacted by Dark Realm Records from America in like a month after putting up Dark Realms Records, And there was one person that was really mad at me for naming my label Dark Realms Records, while theirs was called Dark Realm Records without the S. And I changed the name to Cold Earth Records for a week, and then I went back to Dark Realms Records because I thought it sounded a lot cooler. So I'm sorry to Dark Realm Records, but I had absolutely no idea. That was also just one thing I wrote down one day, and I was really, I think it was even from Darksiders or something like that. I heard that in some game or whatever, and I was like, Dark Realms, that sounds like a cool label. And Googling it doesn't show up Dark Realm Records. So I'm sorry, guys, but in general, that's how the label started, and that's how it's been progressing through the past years. It's just been us expanding on what we can do ourselves without paying somebody something, because we just love doing things ourselves. I think it makes it a lot more authentic and a lot more, real and a lot more us, and saves us money, of course, which is always important.
How do you think having some local guys running a label affects the musical output of your local scene? Does it make anything easier for coming up bands to release, or is it just some private thing you do for your own acquaintances, friends? Right.
I wish I was easier to work with, because the thing is, I've released for for Diadem in Belgium. Sometimes people write our email and they submit their songs, and I will listen to everyone that sends me that stuff, because I'm always interested in people. I never really figured out how to even come across that email, but I think we're on some list from some PR agency. I think it's just interesting that people actually come to us with their stuff. But that's the only person I've ever really released outside of our friend groups in our general area, from people that's not us. The thing is that I am very picky when it comes to stuff. It's of course, the authenticity and it's, I don't know. What I want to say is that a lot of bands, and that's a thing. If you're interested, if anyone's ever interested in releasing with us or me, and you write me through a PR agency, I will not respond. I'll probably not even listen to you. Like, in general, I will not listen to you. If you pay money to a PR agency as an underground band, you're like wrong. You're wrong at my address. I'm not gonna release you. That's not what I do. I don't talk with PR agencies about boosting your music, and I will not produce 700 CDs for you, and I will not get your name out there. That's not what I do. What I do is give you a platform to release your stuff on crappy DIY CDs that I will distribute, definitely, at my events and at wherever I play, and I will send them online and I will ship them to people. That's what I can do, but I'll probably not print more than 50. And that there's a lot of people that are just really wrong at this address, and I don't know. I kind of sometimes I think about me being an asshole about that stuff, because I could definitely give a lot more bands a chance, but I think that point alone of writing me through a PR agency just always felt really disconnected and ingenuine and not authentic at all, because you're not doing the work, you're just paying someone to do the work, which is the exact opposite of what I do. So you're not really right with me. I've blocked like 2 PR agencies by now with my email. They can't even write me anymore because they keep writing me with random bands from Poland and whatever. I just can't keep up with it. It's a thing. But yeah, in general, it has definitely affected the scene a bit, I guess. More now that we actually host events. We've been doing our own events for only like a year or two. We haven't been doing it for way too long. We started with a lot of punk shows in very small venues, just to get into it, and started collecting some gear and stuff. And by now, also one of those things that really reflects on our whole attitude of not really wanting to wait for someone, or not really wanting to owe something someone, is that by now we got all of the stuff we need to host a venue for I don't know, like 200 people with stuff we actually own. We don't need to rent anything. We own that stuff. We own by now a good lighting situation, 2 racks that got cool lighting and a pult to actually mix the lighting, and we got a cool sound mixer. We got cool monitors. We got it figured out for that amount of people, and we don't need to rely on anyone else but us. And that has definitely affected it a lot more, because people are now talking about us actually, because releasing music is fine and all, but actually hosting events and inviting bands from fucking America, as we did last year, has definitely turned some eyes. And I think, I think that's great.
And live events, if we're talking about metal, live events are crucial. Like, you don't have a scene if you don't have live events.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially nowadays, when, like, everybody lives on the internet, people don't come together that easily. You know, the friend groups don't form without the shows. Shows are the place.
Online friends. But it's not the same. It's not the same, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same, and you're missing a huge part of the human interaction. Right. At shows, everybody's together. That's where you meet new people, you meet interesting people, you'll create friends.
You'll be inspired by the cool patch that he has made himself, DIY, and you'll be like, I can do that myself. That's a thing you can't do online. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and if you have a small enough scene and you don't have like a big venue where you just go, you know, then it brings people even more closer, because our venue, it's all, you know, we're all volunteers there.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting paid for anything. We just scramble the money to put on the shows. People come. Sometimes some kids don't have money to come in. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give you this job. Right. Do this, whatever it is. Cleaning, help carry the sound equipment to another place. You know, you'll get in for free. And sometimes some of those kids come back, are like, oh, I discovered that I love helping organizing shows, or so just cool. Like, you know, helping out. Yeah. And now we have, in the last like year or so, or 2 years, we have had several new young kids who are really, you know, sensible and active, and you can see from their eyes that they want to contribute. Yeah.
They want to be part of it, and they want to actually move something, and they want to actually do something. And I think that's the important part, because a lot of us, or a lot of people, actually spend a lot of time just complaining. I mean, it is definitely one of those things we pride ourselves as Austrians, is that we complain a lot. No, our people really, like, that's in our blood. We complain a lot. That's what we do. And the thing is, you can complain about there not being a scene. You can complain about there not being any gigs and shows at your local area. And we've been doing that for a few years, and it's just been happening for the last past years that we've run out of excuses, because our excuses were always like, we don't have a venue, we don't really have the people, the manpower behind it, and we don't have the money and whatever. And they kind of started to run out. We kind of started to run out of those excuses, because people kept gathering, and people, like, we ended up, now our group's full with like 15 people that always want to volunteer and always want to help out, because they just support what we do, and they want to be a part of it. And so that's an excuse that dropped. The venue situation kind of is an ongoing thing, as with every underground promoter nowadays. I feel like I've been talking to so many people that put up the coolest fucking shows and still talk about not knowing where they're gonna do the next one. It's crazy. But other than that, we ran out of excuses at one point, and one of us was like, yeah, why don't we start it? And I think that one of us was my brother, by the way. I really shout out to my brother, because that was, he really pulled it together the last year. We started 2 companies, and now an organization, like a Verein, I don't even know what it is. It's like a different form of company in Austria. And by now we can legally distribute and record our music. We can legally organize events, and we can legally even pour out the drinks on the shows. And that's all just happened because he put his fucking head to it, and because he put in the work for that. And I'm really grateful for that stuff, because I probably wouldn't have done it in a few years. It's just a thing I kept putting off. And I'm grateful for finding these people and other guys that are motivated. And now I got people working at the bar every time. I got people working at the merch every time. I got people working in front every time. I got people working on the stage every time. It's just great to have built this connections, and it all stems from us just being sick of nothing happening. And I think that's really strong. I like that a lot. I think it's great that this is how it ended. And this is how it's going.
It's
right
the
now.
Same here. And if you're not doing it yourself, nobody's gonna do it for you.
That's the thing. Yeah, definitely.
So either your options are keep complaining or do it.
Yeah.
And
I didn't see the point in it anymore, or he didn't see the point in it. But I probably would have continued complaining for the next couple of years. But he was at one point just really pissed off, and I think that's great.
Well, I hope your ventures in that field go well, because
right. Well, one more
we
anecdote.
need those small scenes.
Definitely. One more anecdote is that we've hosted a bunch of our own events. We had this Cosmic Winter we hosted at January, which I talked about. But other than that, what we've been doing is a lot of taking old gatherings and taking old events that have had a visitorship before and that have had happened before and have a name already. And we've taken those and pretty much just revived them. We've done this 2 times pretty much. One time with 100 in Flammen very directly, just calling it the same thing, just 5 years later, with the same guys, of course, with the same event team, but us included, and us doing the booking and the sound and whatever, and just helping them wherever they want. And the other time, Death Over Everding, pretty much just Death Attack, very on the nose, pretty much the same title, but similar. Which also ended in Death Over Everding reviving a bit later, us doing the sound for it. I think that's great, just reviving this stuff that's been dead for like 6 years and nobody's been doing anything about it. This is what we've been doing for the past year, and it's been great, don't get me wrong. What's going to be really interesting is our next ventures are going to be a lot about new things that we have figured out and that we have 100% like, this is our first time really doing our own events and properly not riding on some name that's already existed, but doing our own thing and creating our own name in the scene, which is a thing we're gonna like lean into the next couple of, and I sound like a businessman, but it's just like in the next couple of years I want to try to like do a lot of things. Yeah, really, I'm great with money. Speed and Increase. What I wanted to talk about is that we have this speed metal festival, which we had this really funny running gag with the city we hosted in Riedem-Inkreis. We call it Speedem-Inkreis. It's very on the nose. It's a good funny gag because actually the city's been called the capital of speed, actually, of the drug, because there's like the most amount, the highest percentage of speed found in the groundwater anywhere in Austria, and that's it. It's great. We rode on that train, and feedback for now has been great. It's gonna be in like a month. Let's look if that works out. Probably, I hope it's gonna work out, and after that we're gonna focus on a lot more stuff on our own, because of course that will always feel a lot better than writing off the name of someone else. So let's look if that works out. Yeah.
Well, I hope it does. I hope it does.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, but let's talk about black metal in Austria first. How's the local scene for you?
Honestly, actually, let's start with Tartu, because I thought that was really fascinating, and I wanna like build on top of that.
Well, Tartu is weird because we have the like overarching alternative scene that's mostly made out of punks and different like metalheads also, but mostly young kids who lean towards punk, and most of the like shows and everything are also just touring bands coming through that we organize. at the same house, downstairs venue where you're gonna play. And then we have the black metal scene, the like actual black metal scene, which is made out of mostly older guys who, like, the younger scene has no idea about those people. No idea about this scene, and although I see a lot of young people listening to black metal, wearing the patches, coming to some black metal shows, but mostly, like, only if they are organized by the usual, like, the main organizers in Tartu. Anyways, we have like two scenes that are entirely separate, and it's really difficult to get the younger crowd to like
actually
engage in black metal.
I see.
Engage in, but like especially in black metal.
Right.
Like black metal in Tartu is kind of like a separate entity.
Right, I see. Which is interesting. What you said the last time was also that you get some like young people wanting to go to shows but not being able to afford that stuff. So you start incorporating them you start letting them work for stuff. I think that's quite fascinating.
Yeah, this year we made Tarbariitus tickets cheaper for people until the age of 21.
Right.
So we have 21 tickets that are like almost half price or like less than half a price of the full ticket at the door. And we also did discount tickets, like 29 tickets for 29 euros. So I hope that this year we're gonna be able to bring in more younger people.
Yeah, right. No, I mean it's a really like, smart idea. I like it a lot, especially just like because you notice the problem of not a lot of young people being at the shows, and you were like, let's do something about it. I think that sounds really smart. Yeah. I just think it's fascinating because I've never had anything like that happen in our scene, like in general. Like, there's young people, and you will always find, like, especially Vienna is kind of really funny because you see them like growing up. Like I've met so many people. Like, I mean, I'm 23 myself, so it's not like I'm not part of those guys as well. But it's just really interesting to go to these bars and like see a new face of like the 17-year-old. You can already tell, like you can just like see not even from his patches and like from what he's wearing, but just from how they walk around and what people they involve themselves with, like really fast, and what they do. You can already tell, like he's gonna make it. Like give him like 5 years and he's gonna be in the scene like really good, and he's gonna involve himself. It's great to see. On the other hand, I don't really care. Which is the next point I want to cut into really, really quickly, just because I wrote down black metal can die, and I think that's a sentiment I share with a lot of my friends. The thing is, black metal is a very double-edged sword, and I think it brings a lot of negativity in ways that, I mean, of course it's purely negativity. Like it's pure destruction, it's pure self-destruction, it's pure chaos. Like how's that gonna like affect the world in a positive way, in like a deeper meaning? And I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't have to be.
Right, that's the thing I keep talking about with people.
And you don't have to use it to sow hate. You know, right. you can if you want to put the negative into black metal, you can use black metal as a vessel to live out all your negative emotions or feelings or ideas that trouble you.
Right. It's just been like a weird thing in our lives where I'm honestly, like, looking back, not sure if it has helped me more or made my situations worse. Just the fact that I'm in the scene, and just the fact that I make this kind of music, and that's kind of like the weird part about it. Like, a lot of us feel like that. I think it's black metal is a very weird thing in that regard. So, look, I'm just gonna, like, the thing I'm trying to say is that if black metal dies after us because nobody comes after us and nobody wants to do the shits that the people before them have done, and like that there's just no more young people interested in black metal, I think that's fine. I think that's entirely fine. Like black metal can die in my books. It's fine. Like I've lived through it. And it's kind of like an egotistical thing. And like, I guess, I don't know, man. I just don't really care. I just don't really care about like people coming after us. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I like to, like, why I do all I do. Like the bands, the organizing, recording bands. I do it all to, like, offer people something that I felt I needed when I was younger, but I wasn't able to do, to access whatever. So that's why I do it. And I think that, like, no matter what comes after us, well, there's, even if black metal, I don't think black metal will die. You know, there's always somebody doing it. It's just the question is, will people older than us or like our generation accept what the next people are gonna do?
Right.
Because
it'll change,
if you look at the internet, like every time somebody tries something new in black metal, there's a bunch of people telling them how it's not black metal, how it's shit, you know.
Right.
Like all kinds of negativity because it doesn't, like, oh, your black metal doesn't adhere to my standards.
Yeah, right. And what we've built
or something like that. And
what we understand traditionally.
Yeah, and I think it's bullshit. Do whatever the fuck you want, and if you if you think your your music is black metal, then well, it can be. Who am I to judge? Right.
Of course, I think like in general, evolving this genre and like pushing the boundaries will always be important. It's important in every media, in every piece of art, like in every way you create art. It's always about pushing boundaries, and I think just getting stuck in what usually makes sense in this music is fucking sucks in most cases. You know, I think it's good to push boundaries and like try new stuff. Even if it doesn't work all the time. Like I listen to new stuff and I'm like, man, that really didn't work out. Like that happens, of course, but a lot of other times you hear stuff that you've never heard before and you're like, that's cool, I like that. I think there's like artistic merit to things dying, and I think to things stopping. It's the whole thing of stopping when it's the best, or like ending it when it's really good. And I got no idea where we are, if this is like the best time for black metal or like the worst. I really don't know. I really don't care even. It's like, I think if it were to die, that it had a good life, because like I've had a good time. For me, because you said, I think that's really interesting why you organize events and why you do the stuff you do, your motivation behind it. I think for me it's always been like entirely egotistical. It's been about myself entirely, and like me like having something to be proud of, and like creating something that I deeply care about. And if that connects to people, that's great. But in general, I never really cared about giving anybody like anything. I never really cared about that. But of course, like it's gonna happen. Like that doesn't really reflect on our events, because what actually happens is that I make music videos and live videos for the bands we book, because I'm always like, they're gonna like really love having a live video of that show, and we're just gonna do that for free, or like things that actually actively help musicians. So I'm gonna let them have a good time, of course, but in general it's always been about me. So I think it's also a reason, why I don't really care.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, like I do it mostly for myself also.
Right.
But that's like speaking about the bands, you know. If I do a band, that's for me. That's to express myself, to put my emotions somewhere, to further my playing skills, whatever. But there wouldn't be no me or no band of mine if I didn't have the community and the place that we have built, you know. If if we don't do shows here to keep the place alive, to keep the scene alive, then at some point I don't have a place to perform either. So,
Yeah, right.
like, I give with one hand and at the same time I nibble a bit with the other.
Yeah.
Like, I want something back also.
That's nice, yeah.
But it's natural. I'm not doing anything to get something.
Right.
Or getting really something for doing something.
Yeah.
I'm just doing what I do, what I love to do, and if it pays back in any way, I'm grateful.
Do you want to grow? Like, do you want to grow? Like, talking about the festival or like the bands, especially also. Would you like to become like a big thing that tours and that or the festival become a big thing that people from everywhere go to always and talk about?
I don't think I would like to perform at those huge stages. You know? Especially like nowadays, I'm mostly playing sludge and black metal, and it works best in a small enclosed environment. Like, you need to have this intimacy with a crowd.
Doesn't really translate, yeah.
And I like that, and I also hate traveling.
Yeah,
I do not like to travel. I like to be in Tartu, and like, if any of my bands should ever get any traction, like obviously I'm not gonna say no. If I have the possibility to go and tour and see other bands play in lots of interesting places.
Of course.
Like I went to Latvia, Lithuania and Finland, and I enjoyed those trips, but more in a sense of, the destination and the experience of playing there and meeting those people. But it's about the scene people. Right. I don't give a shit about people who are not in the scene.
Yeah.
Because I have nothing in common with them in my eyes. I don't relate to them in any way.
Right.
So
how you gonna care?
I would prefer to just do what I do and see where it goes. And if it goes somewhere after a lot of hard work, then it's good. You know? But in today's metal scene, the chances are pretty low.
Right. It's not like it's a thing that you can actively like put your mind to, and then it's gonna happen, and then you're gonna be huge. Like that's not a thing that happens anymore. But it was never really my concern, because I also never really cared about, like, I'm actively scared of it. I've actively like stepped out of bands because they were talking about playing on big stages, and I was like, I'm not gonna, like, I'm not gonna be able to do that, and I won't want to do that, so I'm not gonna be part of this band anymore, because I also like love our scene, and I love the size of the gigs we play, and as soon as it's more than like 200 or free, like 200 is like that's pretty much where it cuts off for me, where I'm always like, that's too many people. It's just like, I don't want to play for that many. And I think you're right with the whole, the small venues just like make a lot of sense for that kind of atmosphere. And I think it doesn't really translate on the big stage. So that's one of the reasons. It
depends on a band a bit.
Yeah, it does, I guess.
Like if you have a band like Panzerfaust, which is one of my absolutely like favorite bands ever, they work really well on big stage.
Right.
Well, we both. I think we both saw them at Kilkim Jaibu.
Yeah, right. I also saw them very recently. I think it's also about like them being, all of them being like 6 feet tall. I think so. I think they fill up the stage a lot better than other people. I think it's mostly that. No, I think they're right. They make sense on that stage. I think there's a bunch of bands that do make sense, but for raw, dirty underground, I think there's not really I mean, it's funny, it is interesting to see those kind of bands on big stages a lot, because it rarely happens, but sometimes it does. You see a band on stage and you're like, those guys aren't used to that stage, and they try to fill it up, they try to like move around a lot, and it looks weird, but it's kind of like, it kind of works. It's kind of weird. I don't know, that's
like
interesting
you just need to get the stage feel. It's that's all it's about. Like you can have sometimes bands with like 2 people, 3 people filling up an enormous stage.
Yeah,
And
it's
sometimes
crazy.
you have 6 guys on stage,
Yeah.
which is small, and they can't even use that. So
Like one of my one of the things I cannot stop talking about is about the amounts of amazingly good musicians I've seen in like every scene around this, like everywhere. You always see like great musicians, and especially like in underground scenarios where you're like in front of like 50 people and there's like 5 guys on stage that have perfected their fucking instrument. They'll be like standing there like fucking tapping whole nights, and like it's gonna like they're gonna be amazing, and like perfectly playing. And what actually happens is that I just don't care about them, that like nobody cares about them. At the end of the day, the people don't care about how good technically you were. They care about the show you put on and about how you acted on stage. And if you're gonna stand there, not move around, and like be completely like all of the band just being completely enthralled by the instruments and like not even interacting with anything and not moving, I think it's just it sucks. I'd rather have a band like fucking was Azazel being pissed drunk and falling off stage, because I'd rather like look at that. And I think that's great. That's the thing I'm gonna remember. I'm not gonna remember one of those guys playing that sick ass fucking solo, because like I've seen that stuff, and I think it's great that you've perfected your instrument, but you just don't look interesting on stage. I'm sorry, man. It always pisses me off, because as they're talented musicians. Not don't get me wrong. Like they're like a lot better than me and like a lot of us, but I don't know. It's about the show as well and the atmosphere, and I think that just doesn't work.
that's just something you learn through playing and playing and playing again.
Yeah.
You know, and some people don't ever learn it, and I think
Right.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
Just in that case, I would say that your bandmates need to step up and do the moving for you.
Right.
You know,
It's a thing. But I'm also convinced that some people just cannot learn it. I think that's also very interesting. I mean, to myself personally, it was the natural thing. Like it just happened. I've always been falling over monitors, and I've always been like hitting my other bandmates with the headstock, because I just cannot fucking contain myself. It's just always been a thing. I've never actively. I mean, I do. There's like a couple of things you can do. It's just like move like you're on stage in the rehearsal room and things like that. You can train yourself to stand on your feet a bit better. Not like it really ever helped me stand on my feet any better. I still fall over everything.
Definitely.
Right, but
definitely.
in theory, you can train it a little bit, but in general, I think there's just a lot of people I've met who just will never move on stage because they just can't. I think that's fascinating, yeah. But yeah, as you said, somebody else has to do that job, and as long as somebody fills that role on the band, I'm gonna remember it. And yeah.
or you create your whole band image
Yeah.
around the fact that okay, we are not good at moving around, so let's create some aesthetic that hides it or that plays into the overall sound of the music in a way that we can just stand and focus on our instruments.
What was that band for you?
You
You sound like you have one specific band in mind.
Not any specific band, but if I have to bring an example, then one of my other favorites, Magua, is a good.
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Right.
They
Absolutely.
just stand there. Their bassist sometimes raises a hand or something, but it works.
Sometimes they turn around.
I am sure that they all can perform, just let loose on stage, but they stand still for other reason. Yeah. But it's just there to show that, it works.
Definitely,
you can do it.
It does work, yes. If there's that's the I think that's the point of it. If there's cohesion and if it makes sense, and it makes a lot of sense for the music of Magua, definitely. Mm-hmm. What I had in mind was actually Cult of Fire, which I won't say that they like their stage performance is based around them not being able to perform, because that's definitely not why they do it. But Cult of Fire fucking makes sense. Like they make so much sense. Like having two thrones left and right, them sitting like this for like 1 hour is always like how the fuck can you not getting cramps? It's crazy, but it looks amazing, and like it's really authentic and great, and they don't move around, and I still remember it because they put like their singer goes like this sometimes, and that's all he really does. And I think that's they work as well. Yeah.
And then you have Batushka, which is also like they just stand there. Then you have Kobandant. They have a vocalist that uses this podium, you know, where he stands.
Yeah, right.
Like
I've seen bands like that as well. Yeah. Right, it can work, definitely. Not everybody has to move around like a fucking maniac, being a punk idiot and like crashing over everything. Definitely, like it has to make sense to the music. But in general, I think that's just I think that's the point. I'm trying to hammer down that for a lot of very extreme music where it would make sense to move, a lot of people just stand around, and yeah, I think that's just a bummer.
It is, but. I think it's just something that everybody should keep in mind and try to work on.
Right, definitely. Okay.
Anyways.
Right, what do we got on the points? Sigilism and the death of culture. I want to tell a quick story about the stage outfits and the sigilism and whatever happened on that stuff.
Oh yeah, be my guest.
So it all pretty much started with I'm out of focus. That's fine. It all pretty much started with me trying to get a new tattoo because I design and draw them myself, and then I get them tattooed, and like I spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm gonna do, and at some point I was like the first thing I got was like a sigil of Lucifer, and I was like, yeah, that's a fine first tattoo. But at some point, it just like a year after, it started pissing me off that the whole reason why that sigil really exists is because of Christianity, and I think like that's just not a thing I want to have on my skin actually, which is it's like the one tattoo I regret. I don't really regret it. It's just weird to have because it's not a thing I would do now, which made me think about sigilism in general and like what it really means to have sigil or like symbolism in things. And so I started looking into what do I want on my body? What do I actually want to have on my body? What I thought really intriguing and interesting was to find cultures that are not represented anymore and have cool symbolism and good symbolism that I can agree with and that I like, from cultures that have been personally or like directly affected by Christianity or Christianization, or in general just like fucking cultures and religions, like cultures dying because some other religion said mine's better. And I thought just taking from those cultures and taking their symbolism would be a lot more interesting for myself. It would be a lot, just like I'd be able to live with that a lot better. The thing is,
do you use that kind of symbolism also in Perditus or
Definitely.
Any other band that you have?
Right, definitely, and that's the thing. That's the thing I'm gonna come down. It's gonna come down to what happened was a really funny deep dive into cultures that have died due to Christianity and their crusades and whatever. Funny story. They don't actually really have any. You can't really find any symbolism of cultures that are like, that are dead. It's kind of hard to find. It's kind of hard to find things about. Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? I was so fucking, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, of course I'm not going to find anything about that stuff, which was, I don't know, it was kind of a bummer, but it led me into some other directions where I was like, what am I going to do? What actually ended up happening is me looking into symbolism from cultures that actually do still exist and that have stood the test of time and are still active. And I think it's just a fascinating concept of some concepts in life being found in entirely different parts of the world and having a very similar symbolism. I think that's always fascinating. A lot of it's about creation, destruction, and like these opposites, and like night and day, and moon and sun. I think that's always interesting, and I think a lot of cultures got that, which actually ended up with this one I had. It's Latvian. No, yeah, I think it's Latvian Mēnessi. It's the moon itself. It's a moon goddess. This is the Trishula from in general Hinduism, I guess. It's creation. I don't know the English word for the middle part. It's like containment. Yeah, I don't know. Wait. It stands for creation and destruction and the thing in between, pretty much. I got some double spiral in Celtic of Celtic origins, I guess, and the struck through moon. As my own kind of thing. At that point, I just kind of gave up, and I think that's an interesting thing where symbolism can become a lot more than what it meant originally. When you start combining that stuff, or not even like think about stuff, it kind of has its own. It kind of evolved into its own thing that I keep smearing around everywhere. I keep drawing it and I keep putting it everywhere. Also on the shirts for some parts. I think like, yeah, this is the one. I drew it on here as well. I can identify myself a lot more with that stuff because it's a thing that I have thought about myself, and I have like combined. I've like looked for these things myself, and I think. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I don't even know what to say about that stuff, other than that.
It is definitely interesting, and I think it's also more interesting for the listener if they like really do have an interest in your band and want to learn more about it and the symbolism you use.
Right.
Then they are also in for a little journey. Also, just constantly stamping Christian imagery over anti-Christian music. Is also it's kind of weird to me.
It is weird.
Like we see like every band, like every third band has a upside down cross in their logo.
Yeah.
Like I get why it's there, but it's a Christian imagery.
Right.
The same with pentagram.
Right.
Which
I mean,
like some, I'm pretty sure some Christian sects or let's call them sects for now. Took it from pagans and started using it. So
it's all just appropriation at some point when you really look back at it. And the thing is, like, we can talk about LaVey and Satanism, especially because I think that's interesting. He wouldn't have like whatever he did and whatever you can say about that guy and whatever good stuff he said and whatever bad stuff he said, whatever weird stuff he said, that whole thing wouldn't have happened without Christianity. That's just like case in point. All he pretty much did was just like take what's already existed, something he despised, and turned everything around. That's all he did. And I mean, it worked for some parts. I live through some, I live after like some stuff that he said, and I still think about some stuff he said, because I think it's really interesting. Like, he's got some really interesting points, but in general, he wouldn't have existed without the thing he despised the most, which I think is fascinating. And I really don't want to support that. I just want to like do something new. I just want to like create something actually new that I can agree with. And that's not going to happen if I'm going to call myself a LaVey and Satanist, because at that point, I'm just calling myself a guy that's been influenced by a culture that I don't agree with.
Yeah, it's funny because it's, you know, all about individualism.
Right, and then you call yourself part of something.
And at some point, that individualism comes down to like following some way of thought that somebody else wrote down for you. And
he said a lot of hypocritical things, just like, I don't know. Let's next point. I don't even know how to segue into this, other than just like showing some stuff.
Just let go of what makes sense, and just The
thing
feels
is,
right.
I see, very smart. I brought some things this time. I think they're gonna hammer this point a lot better than me talking about it. I think art in general doesn't always words don't always have to make sense, and I think art in general doesn't always have to really make sense. There's a good market for obscure and abstract art and surrealist art in paintings. Why the fuck couldn't there be in music? And I think a lot of time is being spent thinking about what the lyrics actually mean for musicians as well. Like, you write lyrics and you're always like, no, this has to make like some sense, this has to make a story, and this has to like mean something to anyone, and to myself, and this has to have a cohesive story. The thing is, I don't really believe in that a lot of the times. Like, it happens, like sometimes you get into that mind of this is a story that I want to tell in that song, and then that's what you're gonna do. But a lot of other times, and what I've been doing for a while now, is just sentences come to you at some points, at random moments in your life where you're not really thinking about art or like anything, and then there's just this one sentence that's really in your mind for no reason at all. I mean, it's kind of also a thing, because this is one of the things I did when I was like sitting in some bar. I don't even remember. If it talks to me, I can talk to myself. Sadness, death, sadness, death. And I kept repeating that one fucking sentence, and I wrote it down. I'm also schizophrenic, so that's kind of an unfair point to make. But other than that, I think that's a thing very normal to a lot of artists, that things come to you and they don't always make sense. Like, that sentence on its own doesn't really make any sense, but I will work that into a song at some point, because I don't really understand what I meant by it, but there was some part of my brain that said this makes sense, and I'm gonna put it in some art because I don't really care anymore. I think so. That was one of the things I wanted to show. It's also, this one's also really cool. I refurbished this painting and made it white again, because it was some stupid thing I stole from work at one point, and I wanted to make it into something new. So I started forcing everyone that's been visiting me for like a month to spill their last sip of coffee on this thing, and that's pretty much all that happened. And now I think it's got a cool texture and there's a cool story to it. That's all behind it. Like, there's no commentary on capitalism or anything. It doesn't, like, I just think it looks cool and has a cool story. And
for a second there, I thought that it was blood.
Yeah, could have also been blood.
It looked like blood.
And there's also this.
Your next painting, if you're gonna do it, just let everybody who comes to visit you prick their finger with a needle.
Yeah, I'm gonna force everyone to give me their blood. That sounds really great. I think a lot of people are gonna come to my place after that. Yeah, sounds like a great experience.
Now you were showing me something.
This one's also something that really doesn't make sense. The word Zirsig, it's just like a brand of or like a flavor of iced tea, and I thought it was funny. The word sounded funny to me. That's all, and it ended up with me just like thinking about the word itself and how it could be used in a sentence and whatever, and I started cutting it apart and framed it, and I think that's just. It looks cool now, and people like it, and people are like, that's a cool piece of art, but there's no story behind it other than me thinking that word's funny. This one was just like me giving up on trying to draw the symbol, and then it looked like shit, and then I drew it again a bit over, like to the left and to the top, and then it looked a bit more cool, and then I still thought it looked like shit, so I started cutting it apart and like rearranging it in some ways and like making it even more fucked up. Those are actually other stripes from another project. Like those were just test stripes of me trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with my bedroom wall. I think that this is a lot more interesting than just me drawing something and then being fine with it, because I'm never fine with anything I create. I will always like critique it, and if I critique it a lot and if I destroy it a lot, and if I make it a lot more chaotic and then rearrange it in other ways, at some point I'm just happy with it, and I think it's just a lot more interesting.
For sure, and you're also really making it your own.
Right.
But we have been talking a lot about the visual side of things. How do those same ideas reflect in the sonic side?
Right. So, and that's the thing. There's a lot of comparisons you can make because it's both art. It's visually, it's drawings, it's collages and things like that, and then there's music. And I think there's a very direct correlation to a lot of these concepts where you can, like, a lot of us don't know any notes or any traditional music theory, and I think that really plays into the music. You can tell a lot of the times because I don't know what's gonna work, and I'm always scared of actually learning more music theory because at some point I'm gonna be like standing there and thinking, now that I'm gonna play this chord, I think I know for a fact scientifically that this next chord is gonna make sense, and now I'm gonna play that the chord. That scares me. That actually scares me because I don't want to know that stuff. I want to like try this chord and then try this chord and see if it looks right and see if it sounds right, and a lot of the times it does, and I don't know why. Like I don't have the scientific proof and I don't have the grasp on music theory that I can tell you why those two chords sound good together or make sense in that way, but they do to my untrained ears. And I think that's also a thing about a lot of musicians in extreme metal in general, where I think that letting go of traditional ways of understanding music and just not understanding it and just like going by what you feel like makes this a really interesting medium and a really interesting scene, I think.
Yeah, I don't know any music theory either, and
Right.
At some point the drummer of one of my black metal bands asked me like, "Hey dude, why do half of your riffs sound so schizophrenic?"
That's a good compliment. I like it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, but I took it as a compliment.
Definitely,
because I don't want my black metal to sound like another Dark Throne or whatever any of my favorite bands. You know, I want to make it my own, and somehow the fact that I do not know any music theory and actually can't play, like I'm imitating playing. I don't know what I'm doing.
You continue.
The thing about Tartu scene is that we all play together all the time.
Right.
We have so many bands, and of course, because the scene is small, all the bands share members. So people are extremely used to playing with each other.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you can see that on stage. When foreign bands visit Tartu, they are always amazed by the local bands, which are more often than not done by like 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. Together.
There's definitely certain chemistry you have with other musicians in the room, and being able to play with them in a bunch of bands and noticing how they play and what they play is always a thing that's gonna really help the whole learning and being good on stage thing. I think I'm traditionally trained on acoustic guitar actually, or I learned acoustic guitar when I was a kid, and I keep getting like it has influenced how I play electric guitar a lot. And now that I've been writing down actual tabs for Perditus and been forcing other people to learn it, just like my two guitarists on the stage, they've been really figuring out how I play and how I make music, because there's a certain way you will write riffs and there's the signature sound and these signature like patterns you will always do, and they figured it out by now. And I think it's really funny to see that if I were to show them one of those riffs at the start, they were gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing there? Because that pattern is really weird. How are you gonna like pick that, like this one first and this is really weird. Mm-hmm. And at this point, when I would show them songs with the exact same pattern, they're just gonna stand there and like, I know that by now. So they've learned my patterns through this year, and I think that's really interesting, because by now I can just put whatever on them and they're gonna learn it and they're gonna be fine. But it's a learning process, and I think although I'm not like, none of us are like great musicians by any standard, or like amazing musicians, or really talented guys, or anything. Like we don't have, none of us have any discipline. Like none of us really sit at home and really actually practice things. Like we've hit this wall of being fine and good on stage, and I think that's all we really want. None of us have the discipline to really properly study or like learn stuff at home. And I think it's just interesting that by now we've all figured out how the other one plays, and that there's definitely some merit to just practicing together a lot. Yeah.
And also writing together.
Right, definitely.
Like, okay, yeah, if you're doing a solo project, so you just can't take your band members and show them a riff,
Right.
come up with everything else. But like one of my projects that started as a solo project, I invited my friend to play drums there, and he knows my playing style so well, and just has so similar ideas to me that most of the time when I play him a riff, he knows exactly what drums to put there that fit, and I'm like, that's it.
That's great.
That's exactly what I wanted. So
that's great to have.
But enough about me. Let's
No,
get back to you. And let's get back to you and Bones.
Right. One thing I still wanted to ask is talent, because I think talent's an interesting thing. Do you believe in talent? I think that's what it comes down to.
I believe that some people pick things up easier than others.
Mm-hmm.
There's no use of any amount of talent if you don't practice and really put your soul and heart into the whatever the thing is you're creating.
Yeah. I myself also have been like it kind of, it seems like really degrading or like really talking down on you when people get like they say it as a compliment. Of course, it's a compliment to say you're talented, you're great at this stuff, you're so talented. But it always comes across as like you can only do this because you've been born for this, and like it's not that. Like I talk about having no discipline, and I don't have discipline anymore. But this is also just because I've hit my top, and I don't want to go any further. What I actually did in my youth was like stand in our basement for weeks on end and just playing my just like ruining my fingers and making them bleed every fucking day because I just wanted to improve. So I had discipline, definitely. I had to work to get here, and everything we achieve now is because of hard work. And I think the whole excuse of not being able to start music or not making music because it's so hard and because I just don't have talent and I just don't believe, I think that's all bullshit. It's the same for drawing and artistry in general. I just think put your mind to it and put actually do the work and you're gonna improve. There's no way you're not gonna improve.
Every time somebody comes to me after a gig or in general, people know me and tell me that, I wish I could do something like that.
Right,
like, do it.
Yeah,
There's nothing stopping you.
Absolutely.
I
no
have
excuse.
no musical talent.
Yeah.
I can't play my instruments. And I am almost unable to practice at home.
Yeah.
I lose my focus. The only time I play an instrument is when I come here and have a band practice, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned. I started playing drums because I was invited into a band to play drums.
Yeah.
I had at that point I had played drums exactly 3 times in my life.
Yeah.
3.
Great. That stuff,
and now I'm playing drums in most of the bands that I'm doing.
Right.
So, and I do not have any talent. I do not have musical hearing. I can't properly count. I don't feel the time. Everything that can go wrong usually goes wrong.
Definitely.
And most of it is behind the fact that I do not practice because I'm fucking, my brain doesn't work.
I get it, man. I get it.
But I can still do it. And that's what I tell everybody. Pick up the instrument that you want to learn and just play it. Pick up the pencil, write, draw, whatever.
Right, yeah. And what also happens is the whole time. I don't have time for that. Like, it's like I got the time for that. I only got the time because I take the time for it. Like I can also say I got other stuff to do. I could do like things that would actually like get me somewhere and actually make money or things like I could do that as well, but I won't because I like this stuff and I live for this shit and I do it because I enjoy it actively and because I want to actually like do something with that stuff, and like it helps me a lot. This is why I do it, not and like this is why I take time for it, which everybody could do in theory. I get that people are busy. I'm busy as well, but I still make it work somehow. So that's also not an excuse. Yeah, it's talent's an interesting word. I don't know. I get a lot of people being pissed about that by now, and I think it's good. I think it's fine because talent, yes, and what you said at first, I think is also true. There are people that are definitely inclined to the stuff a lot more than other people. Like, I was fascinated with metal, and especially black metal for some reason. I'm actually pretty sure I can boil it back down to Guitar Hero on when I was like 8 or 9, because I saw those guys on stage and I was like, I want to be like that, and I am like that now, and I think that's great to think about. Other people don't have that, and I think yes, definitely that definitely helped a lot for me, because I have that drive. I want to be that guy. I want to be there. A lot of people don't have that, and I think they have that for other things then, and I think that's fine as well. But the whole saying of you can do this because you're talented, and I wish I was that talented, just always rubs me the wrong way. Yeah.
I could say the same, but at this point I don't even care. I just try to nudge people in the proper, in my mind, proper direction. Right. And most people who at least have the interest in the thing and are willing to try it,
right,
they're gonna make it in one way or another.
I like the word proper. And I think the word proper was really interesting. Now, sorry, you want to say something? Because I'm gonna say something.
Like, and by making it, I don't mean that you're gonna be the next big musician on Brutal Assault stage. No, I just mean that at some point you're gonna find yourself sitting in your living room behind a table or at a rehearsal room, and you have a song in front of you, you know.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't have to be good.
Right.
You have to like it.
No. Yeah,
it has to be good for you.
Definitely. And that translates a lot. Like, a lot of the time you will hear music that's just like authentic. You know, authentic's the word we keep going back to, but I think in this context it just makes a lot of sense, because if you're making music for yourself only, that will show and people will notice. Like, it's just gonna show. And I think same parallel with art again. You're gonna notice if somebody just like puts 3 lines on a canvas because he was like, I can do art myself, or he was like, I wanna fucking put 3 lines on that canvas. There's a difference between those things, and I can tell which one is which. You can tell the intent, I think.
Yeah.
I think the word proper was really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to it.
Right. So, like, we all talk to a lot of people. At least I'm really interested in getting to know people in general, I think, and especially like learning about other cultures and other music and other forms of art that I don't really have a good vision of. And I've met a lot of people, especially in the electronic scene. I think that's really interesting to have. Or like the rap. I got like I once talked to this guy who has his own battle rap league thing. It's really interesting to just like talk about different scenes and their differences. And I think that's the funny thing. We're like not special at all. Is what actually turns out to be the case. Like, all of us have all of our scenes have the same struggles, especially especially like everything that's not mainstream and everything that's trying to go away from the mainstream will always have the same problems. And I think it's so fascinating to talk to some guy from the EDM scene, or like from the deeper tech scene, talking about so he was at the show and there was like 50 people who were sitting on the bar when the first act showed up, because all they were here for was the main act, and they didn't even care about the scene in general. They were just here for that, and then they recorded that song, and then they left again. I think that sucks when people get into the scene and just like don't actually want to listen to the music, but just the one song they know. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, that sounds exactly like what the fuck happened last week. So we're not different at all. We're not, and I think that's the funny part, where this whole thing of trying to get people into your scene is a very evolutionary, is a thing that makes a lot of sense, because you want let's roll it back like about a fucking million years and think about what that actually means and where this comes from, because this makes a lot of sense in my head, at least, where you're like, my tribe and my people, they live a good life. Like, I live a good life. I can live with myself pretty good, and I like myself, and I like the people around me, and I like the art I make, and I like this life. This life is what I want to do. Why can't everybody else do what I do? Because I figured it out pretty much. So like, you got this thing in your head somewhere where it's like, I figured this out. I want more people to be part of this because I know what's right, and I figured life out pretty much. And this is pretty much what we want to do these days, I think, as well. And this is what happens for every scene, because everyone thinks they have figured it out. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict stems from between these underground scenes, even though they're not different at all. Because it boils down to the same things. They will always be against each other, because in general, I figured it out, not you. You haven't figured it out. You're completely wrong, and I'm right. And I think that's a really interesting thing.
I don't even think that it's that deep. It's just if you're a part of a subculture, it's a group of people that exists in the bigger group of people that is culture or society, and so usually why people come to subcultures is to find community, find a way to escape the like majority of society. The you know, the holier than thou culture that we live in, and that means that the problems, they all stem from the same place, just the way how people express those feelings, and the way how they find escape from it all is different.
Because and that's where we get back to individualism, because we're all living through different lives with different circumstances and contexts. So, not everybody's gonna end up in the same scene because of that, and I think that's fine. I just think it's interesting to think about.
Most people, I think, find it easier to just conform and fit in than to
it is easier
express
definitely.
themselves in a way that might put them in bad light for the majority of people.
No, it is easier. Like, you could live a normal life. We could both cut our hair and like try and fit, but like, it's just like, I don't know, man. It just never made sense to us, you know.
It
never
made
sense.
But what's the point?
Right. What's
what
the real
would
point?
Be the point?
I like myself, and I'm staying true to that. And if that means that I'm gonna piss some people off and make people look at me weird, that's just a thing I'm gonna have to live with, because I don't really care.
Well, in modern society, I think actually that no matter what, like, people are so used to everything that nobody gets pissed off at you or me. Nobody usually looks us differently. We're just part of the crowd, you know. We look different, but nobody gives a shit. Well, be a punk in Estonia, nothing happens to you. You just live your life. Be a punk in Indonesia, for example. They're gonna shave your head, put you into a working camp, and try to re-educate you. So,
no, definitely,
I think
context.
Here in Europe, we have it pretty fucking easy.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, we can do black metal festivals and shows, and nobody's stopping us. So,
man, I had this like. We put up the show in my hometown Hope Time. Like, this is we're talking about like 400 people at max. I don't even know how many people we got in our hometown. It's like a really Christian community. Like, they will talk shit about you because I have long hair. That's just what's gonna happen. Like, they're gonna curse you to the grave, and it's always been like this. Like, we never really cared about it, but like, it's a thing. And then at one point, my brother was like, "Hey, let's do a fucking black metal show in this venue, pretty much in this ballroom," and my first reaction was like, no, we can't do that. We're absolutely not able to do that. Like they already fucking hate us. We can't fucking do that. And
that's why you have to do it.
Right. And what ended up happening is that we did it. I mean,
Yeah.
He brought a really good point, and I think that actually helped us a lot. Is what we actually did is put on 2 shows on Friday and on Saturday. On Friday we put on a show where we actually went around the week before to the neighbors and everyone around them, and we're like, hey, on Friday there's gonna be this that's the thing, this really cool rock and punk show, and people were like, yeah, okay, that sounds nice, yeah, that's fine. Then they went there on Friday, and we said like there's also gonna be something on Saturday, but it's nothing special. Just come on Friday and it's fine. And they went there, and like a lot of the neighbors just went there, looked at that show, at that punk and rock show that's like pretty common, like pretty nice. I mean, that's as far as nice as punk can be, and they were like fine with it, you know. Like everybody was fine with it. We got like so many good reactions, and what actually ended up happening is that nobody really cared about Saturday. People still showed up from our scene, and like people that actually cared about it, but nobody really called the police or anything, just because a bunch of people with corpse paint were running around. And I think that was also really interesting. But what I learned from that is that not caring about this stuff really works out a lot of the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It works. And I think you couldn't have done that like 20 years ago. I'm like convinced you couldn't have done that 20 years ago. So we live in pretty interesting times when it comes to that. Definitely, yeah.
Oh,
man.
So it's
3 hours,
10
35
already.
minutes, yeah.
I think we have talked enough for today.
I think so too. I think we should actually close it by now.
But yeah, do you have any closing words for the listeners?
Well, give me like a minute. I'm gonna figure something out. Something very smart and intelligent. Yeah. Buy my merch. I want to buy a lot of hard drugs with that money, and I'd love your support. And yeah, I think that's it. We'll see each other in fucking Estonia. What a great shit. Yeah.
Okay, well then, looking forward to meeting you.
Yes.
And see you at Tarbariitus.